Chapter 326. It was Ning Shu's first time seeing a primitive scenery. There was an endless primitive forest, and huge birds were flying in the sky. The whole world was in an uncivilized state, wild and dangerous. There were children playing on the flat ground around the cave. Some of the children had even turned into tiger cubs with small wings on their backs. The children were playing together and rolling on the ground. There were also small female orcs who hadn't turned into human form nestled in the arms of adults, watching these tiger cubs play. Ning Shu felt that his worldview was broken again. Ning Shu really couldn't stand such a strange setting. The most important thing was that she could have sex in her animal form and human form, and the feeling was different. Even her penis looked different. The problem was that Qian Jia had more than one man. Ning Shu withdrew his gaze and spread the withered grass in his arms at the entrance of the cave, letting the sun shine more. Ning Shu raised his head and saw two dazzling suns in the sky. Fuck, my worldview. Fuck, why are you up? A female orc turned her head and looked at Ning Shu. She quickly got up from the stone bench and walked in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu recognized this male and female orc. He had added firewood to the fire in her cave before, and he was called Ji. His name was either Chao or Ji. As a person who had traversed the world, he really couldn't accept the name Chao. Fuck, are you feeling better? Ning Shu asked Ji. Hearing her own name, Ning Shu couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. If she were to introduce herself in the future. Fuck. I'm much better. Ning Shu stammered, but he finally said it. Ji was taller than Chao. His face was dark, and the hair on his face was about half a centimeter long. According to aesthetics, female orcs were considered ugly. However, the male beast men were very charming, very, very charming. For example, the male beast men of the winged tiger race had amber eyes like tigers, while the male beast men of the black snake race had feminine beauty. Ning Shu completely suspected that this setting was for the convenience of the female lead. All males were charming, and both sexes were ugly. Then in this world, only Chica was the prettiest and most beautiful person. However, in terms of survival, male beast men could transform into tigers to keep warm in the unusually cold winter, but female beast men could not. They could only grow fur to resist the cold, and their dark skin could absorb more heat. Besides, there were two suns in the sky, so it was impossible not to get dark. Why don't I come to your house? Ning Shu invited Ji. After all, she was the first person he saw after he woke up. Primitive people did not know how to be polite. As soon as Ning Shu invited her, Ji entered Ning Shu's cave. Ning Shu looked at the dark cave and felt a little bitter. Ji sat on the ground and added some dry wood to the fire for Ning Shu. Damn, I wonder what the hunting team got this time. The weather is getting colder. I don't know if we can survive this winter. Ning Shu said to Ji. Ning Shu was a little absent-minded. He guessed that the hunting team would bring Chica with them this time. By then, the whole winged tiger race would have a qualitative leap. Ning Shu did not have any bad feelings towards Chica. After all, she had changed the barren situation of primitive beast men. It was normal for a capable person to like many people. However, from a long-term perspective, it was not good. Every species underwent slow natural selection. Chica had found seeds, wheat, corn, and even rice. The winged tiger race had chosen to let most of the beast men start farming and raising animals. A small number of male beast men resisted the wild beasts that wanted to rush into their race. The whole world was a primitive society full of dangers. The beastmen's transformation ability was to hunt and protect themselves, but now they were all farming. These things could meet the needs of the beast men, so their transformation ability would slowly deteriorate. However, this world was still a dangerous and wild world. There were powerful animals, and it had not yet entered the era of farming. By then, the beastman's situation would be even more difficult. This kind of choice might even cause the beastmen to be eliminated by natural selection in the future. Everything had its advantages and disadvantages. A primitive world should be full of killing and challenges. All creatures were adapting and evolving their genes. It was easy to pull one's balls if one took a big step. Ning Shu felt that he was thinking too much again. He sat next to Ji and said, "I guess they'll be back soon." Ji stirred the fire and then turned to look at Ning Shu. She was a little surprised and said, "The shaman said you wouldn't wake up." "I didn't expect you to wake up." Ning Shu smiled and showed his teeth, which made Ji's face a little ugly. Ning Shu could only feel lucky that there was no mirror in front of him. Ning Shu talked with Ji casually and asked about the situation of the winged tiger tribe indirectly. For example, the future partner of this body was very strong and ranked in the top in the tribe. Ning Shu knew from the plot that the person who saved Qian Jia was the son of the patriarch, the young patriarch of the winged tiger tribe, Rui. Rui regarded Qian Jia as his partner. At this time, there was a cheer outside, like a roar. Ji's face was full of smiles. The hunting team is back. Then she pulled Ning Shu out of the cave. Ning Shu looked up and saw many tigers almost as big as a couch, flapping their wings and flying in the sky. There were so many tigers flying together that it seemed to cover the sky. These tigers were holding dead gifts in their mouths. Ning Shu's sharp eyes saw a man sitting on the back of a big golden tiger. These tigers with wings flew down and then turned into men in an instant. Their bodies were naked, with the tiger's own fur covering their private parts. They looked like small fur skirts. Every male orc had a strong body with bulging muscles and a V-line vest. They looked very sexy, wild and sexy. Every male orc was not bad. It was like a group of beautiful men. Ji pushed Ning Shu and said, "Let's go. Your Kai is back." "My Kai? He won't be mine soon." Ning Shu followed them. The clansmen began to talk about the results of the hunt, but there was something more attractive. The orcs surrounded Qian Jiao. She slid down from the tiger's back. Being surrounded by so many people, she suddenly became a little timid. Qian Jia came to a strange place. She couldn't figure out how she came here. This was a place where people stayed. This was a wild and uncivilized place. Seeing this little female orc was scared, several male orcs wanted to comfort her, but Rui was standing next to her. It seemed that Rui wanted to take this little female orc for himself. Qian Jia was very dependent on the man who saved her, so she stayed close to the young patriarch Rui. Ning Shu looked at Qian Jia from head to toe. She was wearing a short-sleeved t-shirt, jeans, and a small bag on her back. Her skin was white and her face was delicate. She was a little beauty. But in a group of female orcs, her 5 points of beauty became 10 points. She was a peerless beauty. Chapter 327. Rui seemed to have sensed the little female's fear, so he pulled her back to his cave. Although Qian Jia had left, the male orc still fixed his eyes on Qian Jia. He was obviously curious about this little female. She looks so strange, but she's pretty. Ning Shu sighed. Ning Shu said perfunctorily, "Yes, she's pretty." Then he wanted to go back to his cave to practice his unique martial arts. Since the mission was to save his life and try his best to save people, he must have strong martial arts. Ning Shu suddenly realized that no matter where he was, he could not rely on other people, especially men. Nothing had happened yet, but these men could not take their eyes off Qian Jiao. Ning Shu had just taken 2 steps when he was stopped by Ji. "You can go back if you don't take the meat." "Oh." Ning Shu just realized that after every hunt, the hunting team would give some to the female orcs first. After Rui left, the person who distributed the meat was the second in command of the hunting team, who was also the future partner of the original owner of the body. Ning Shu looked at the man named Guy. His leather skirt was black with yellow fur. After transforming, he should be a striped tiger. He was very handsome, with bronze skin, deep facial features, and a pair of tiger eyes. He found that these male orcs were all in line with the modern aesthetic, as if they were tailor-made for Qianjia. It felt like a fantasy. They could change between a tiger and a human body, but they were not spiritual beasts. Guy gave Ning Shu a few pieces of bloody meat. He looked at Ning Shu with his tiger eyes and asked, "I heard that you're sick." "Oh, much better." Ning Shu was very cold to Guy. After all, he was not her man. She was determined not to steal the man from the heroine. Besides, she had more important things to do now. No matter how handsome Guy was, Ning Shu was eager to go back to practice his unique martial arts. He wanted to know if it was possible to practice in this world. Ning Shu grabbed a few pieces of meat and left. Guy wanted to stop Ning Shu, but he still had work to do. After returning to the cave, Ning Shu placed the meat on the stone bench and then sat on the ground to cultivate. In a primitive society, the spiritual energy should be quite abundant. After cultivating for a while, Ning Shu felt his body trembling slightly. It was as though his body was incapable of cultivating. If he couldn't cultivate, he could only be a weakling. How could he protect himself? Ning Shu continued to cultivate. He felt very, very hungry. When he saw the bloody meat on the stone bench, he wished he could just eat it raw. Ning Shu stuffed a fasting pill into his mouth. Only after the fasting pill flowed into his stomach did he feel his hunger dissipate a little. Ning Shu frowned. He felt that the female beastman's body was very strange. In the words of the school doctor, it was a genetic defect. The male beastmen were so strong, but the female beastmen were so weak. Pregnancy and childbirth would kill the female beastmen. Or could it be that the genes of the male evolved, and because the females were protected by the tribe, they couldn't keep up with the evolution of the males? Damn, Ning Shu slapped his head. What was he thinking? His brain was stupid to begin with, and he was still thinking about such profound things. Ning Shu was stubborn and insisted on cultivating Qi Jin. However, what made Ning Shu feel discouraged was that he really couldn't cultivate Qi Jin. He just felt very hungry. He ate a few fasting pills, but he still couldn't cultivate Qi Jin. Peerless martial arts could only transform the body and fill it with strength after cultivating Qi Jin. After experiencing several worlds, Ning Shu was already very familiar with cultivating peerless martial arts. However, he felt that it was extremely difficult to cultivate. This meant that the aptitude of this body was very poor. Moreover, Ning Shu didn't dare to eat the spirit marrow crystal. Without Qi Jin in his dantian, he could absorb the terrifying spiritual energy from the spirit marrow crystal. The spiritual energy would explode his body into pieces. Ning Shu sighed. Looking at the bloody meat, he didn't know how to eat it. He roasted it. Ning Shu was speechless. It was only after staying in the primitive society that he realized the convenience Qianjia brought to the primitive society. He thought that she was a goddess, a messenger sent by God. Ning Shu took the bloody meat to Ji's house next door and said to Ji, "Let's eat it together." Ji saw Ning Shu take all the meat and said, "Are you going to eat all of it? If you don't store it, when there are 2 shiny round stones in the sky, winter will come." 2 shiny round stones in the sky. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Damn, 10 moons. What the hell? Fortunately, it wasn't 10 suns. Ning Shu twitched the corner of his mouth. It will spoil easily. Eat it. It's not very hot now, so it won't spoil easily. The hunting team said that it's not easy to hunt in cold weather. Damn, you'd better save some. Okay. Ning Shu wanted to say that without salt and rouge meat, the meat would be smelly. What could he eat? He just needed to wait for Qianjia to find the salt mine. Then everyone would have salt to eat. Qian Jia should do some things, but it would be strange if she did it. Ning Shu didn't want to be special. Sometimes, being special was a kind of trouble. Ji roasted the meat for Ning Shu without washing the blood off. She just roasted it directly. There was salt in the blood, so it was good to roast it like this. Orcs in the hunting team would drink the blood of their prey to replenish the salt in their bodies before biting their prey's neck. Orcs also had their own way of survival, so he summed it up bit by bit. However, looking at the black roasted meat, Ning Shu had no appetite at all. Ji handed the roasted meat to Ning Shu. Ning Shu took it, smelled it, and took a bite. The meat was quite tough, with an earthy taste and a little salty. Thinking that he needed a lot of energy to practice the unique martial arts, Ning Shu bit the meat and ate it. Ning Shu asked Ji to take care of the rest of the meat, saying that he didn't feel well and asked her to help him. Ji agreed and asked Ning Shu to have a good rest. After all, the shaman had said that the grass might not live long and would be taken away by God. Ning Shu was speechless. Primitive people were so straightforward. If it were other people, they would think that Ning Shu was lazy and wanted to slack off. Ning Shu went back to his cave and began to practice. When he was hungry, he gave him a fasting pill. Ning Shu was very glad that he had exchanged some fasting pills in advance. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive. Qian Jia, who was brought back by Rui, felt even more miserable than Ning Shu. She saw the man in front of her throw a piece of roasted meat in front of her. Qian Jia only had black money on her head, and she didn't understand what the man wanted to say. Qian Jia's head was still dizzy. Where did she travel to? People traveled to ancient times to flirt with beautiful men, but she directly traveled to a primitive society. There was also a group of primitive people who could turn into tigers. Qian Jia wanted to hold her head and scream. What the hell? Rui told Qian Jia to eat something, but Qian Jia was confused. Seeing that he was pointing at the meat, Qian Jia picked up the roasted meat on the ground and patted the dust. She almost broke her teeth when she took a bite. She couldn't bite it. Chapter 328. The male beastman Rui looked at Qian Jia biting the meat like a cub without teeth. After biting for a long time, she still couldn't tear the meat off. A ripple suddenly appeared in Rui's heart. He felt that she was very cute. She had a white face and bright red lips. Her body was even smaller than female beastmen. He had never seen such a small female before. Rui tore the cooked meat and placed it in front of Qian Jia. Qian Jia only took a bite and almost vomited. It was tasteless and tasteless. There was an earthy smell and the stench of animal fat. It was disgusting. Qian Jia had never eaten anything so disgusting before. Qian Jia was remorseful in her heart. She shouldn't have been so picky about her food before she transmigrated. Things that were unbearable in the past now seemed like unique delicacies. Rui saw that the little female was choking and coughing. He stretched out his hand and gently patted Qian Jia's back. His hand touched her back. She was wearing soft animal skin. He could feel her body temperature through the thin animal skin. Rui's tiger eyes rippled. He directly carried Qian Jia up. Ignoring her confused face, he placed her on the withered grass and directly pressed her body on top of him. Qian Jia finally reacted. This beast wanted to do something beastly. Her chastity that she had preserved for so many years was actually going to be taken away by a primitive man. How could this be? Rui didn't know how to take off Qian Jia's jeans. However, with his powerful strength, he directly tore the pants. There was still a small underwear inside the pants. Rui also tore Qian Jia's underwear. Qian Jia wanted to cry but had no tears. She was extremely scared. She cried and hit Rui, who was on top of her. However, she couldn't change her fate. Rui sucked on the dark red top as if he was fascinated. Her body was filled with a fragrance that made Rui very fascinated and infatuated. Qian Jia was teased until her body went soft. She also saw such a handsome face with deep contours and a pair of tiger eyes that seemed to be brewing water. Qian Jia was instantly mesmerized. It was a romantic night. Ning Shu cultivated for an entire night and ate a bottle of fasting pills. However, he still couldn't cultivate Qi Jin. This made Ning Shu very depressed. Even in the modern era, she could cultivate a weak Qi Jin. However, in the primitive world, the world was filled with spiritual energy. She actually couldn't cultivate Qi Jin. This was illogical. It was enough to prove how bad this body's quality was. The school doctor said that the quality of genes was directly reflected on the face. Ning Shu had no idea what this body looked like. It was probably as ugly as the female beastmen in the tribe. Sigh. Ning Shu stuffed a fasting dan into his mouth and then continued to meditate. He had to cultivate Qi Jin. As long as he could cultivate Qi Jin, then he would be able to eat spirit marrow crystals. Without Qi Jin to help him absorb the terrifying Ling Qi of the spirit marrow crystals, Ning Shu did not dare to court death. At this moment, Ning Shu heard heavy footsteps at the door. He immediately stopped and saw Ji coming in. Why are you still here? Everyone should go to the place of sacrifice. Ji came over and pulled Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a little confused. What happened in the clan? Didn't Rui bring back a female? Now shaman wants to communicate with God and let God decide whether to let her stay in the tribe, Ning Shu said. God. There was the concept of God in the primitive society. Ning Shu came to the square of sacrifice. There were several pillars in the square. There were all kinds of inexplicable abstract things on the pillars. Ning Shu did not understand what they were. The most eye-catching thing was a huge stone statue in the middle. The stone statue was in the shape of a human, but the facial features were not visible. Anyway, the carving was not good enough. What is this? Ning Shu pointed at the stone statue and asked. Ji looked as if he was facing a great enemy. He grabbed Ning Shu's wrist to stop him from pointing at the stone statue. He said anxiously, "Fuck, how can you point at God like that? Are you disrespecting God?" This was God. Ji looked at the stone statue and said, God gave the beast men the ability to transform. God waved his hand, and the beast men could transform. They could use the beast form to hunt. Ning Shu, ha, I don't believe it. The beast men of the tribe gathered in the square. Ning Shu looked around. Even the little beast men had come. Looking at the little male and female beast men standing together, Ning Shu wanted to cover his eyes. Were the little female beast men so ugly when they were little? They were not cute at all. On the other hand, the male beast men were very cute. He felt that God was very biased. After a while, the chief of the winged tiger tribe and shaman came. The chief was a very charming middle-aged man. The shaman was a female beast man with bird feathers all over her body. Coupled with her ugly face, Ning Shu wanted to cover his face. Because a female beast man has appeared in the tribe. Now, we are going to tell God about it. God will decide whether this female beast man can stay in the tribe, the shaman said in a hoarse voice. Rui turned into a tiger and carried Qian Jia directly to the sacrifice square. Under the gaze of everyone, Qian Jia was a little embarrassed to get off Rui. There was a blush on her white face. She stuck out her tongue embarrassedly. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at Qian Jia. Her t-shirt was a little dirty. She was no longer wearing jeans. Instead, she was wrapped in animal skin to cover her breasts. A pair of white and tender legs were exposed. She was not wearing shoes. Under the sunlight, they reflected a pearl-like halo. Her black hair was a little messy because of the wind. The contrast between black and white was very beautiful. Ning Shu had seen many female beastmen with ugly faces. Even though he had seen many beautiful women, when he saw Qian Jia, he could not help but feel stunned. He felt that Qian Jia today was more charming than yesterday. She had probably become Rui's partner. Ning Shu looked around and saw Guy, the future partner of this body. He was staring at Qian Jia with a pair of tiger eyes. His amber eyes were full of surprise and amazement. Although he did not know what beauty was, when he saw this little female, his heart was stirred. Ning Shu withdrew his gaze. Not only the male beastmen could not move their eyes away from Qian Jia, but also the female beastmen could not move their eyes away from Qian Jia. Hey, this female beastman is so beautiful. Which tribe is she from? Ji exclaimed. Ji then touched his hair, looking a little dispirited. Ning Shu looked at Ji and felt that it was quite funny. Qian Jia was really capable. She had directly changed the beauty standards of the beastmen. Qian Jia was beautiful now. However, after being nourished by the beastmen, she would become more and more beautiful in the future. This female beastman, please put your hand on the god stone. The shaman looked at Qian Jia and frowned. He did not know whether this female beastman would bring good luck or disaster to the tribe. Qian Jia did not understand what this man with bird feathers was saying to her. She could not understand, so she could only look at Rui for help. Last night, the two of them had physical contact. Qian Jia had already regarded Rui as someone she could rely on. Chapter 329. Seeing that the female beast did not respond, the shamaness repeated, "Put your hand on the god stone." Rui saw that his little female was very embarrassed, and she was looking at him with tears in her eyes. He grabbed Qian Jia's hand and walked to the altar in front of the stone statue. Rui put Qian Jia's hand on a stone on the altar and smiled at Qian Jia. Ning Shu looked at the stone. It was oval-shaped and palm-sized, but it was gray all over. It did not look special. How could it be a god stone? The more powerful items were all dusty, just like the chaos gems and low-quality primordial crystal stones. Qian Jia's hand was on the stone, and she felt the stone get hotter and hotter. Finally, it felt like her hand was going to blister. Qian Jia could not take it anymore, and she quickly pulled her hand back. Qian Jia retracted her hand, only to see the gray stone emit a bright light, and this bright light directly pierced into Qian Jia's forehead. This is an auspicious sign, an auspicious sign. A goddess from the heavens, a goddess from the heavens. The shamaness was so excited that the feathers on her face fell off. Qian Jia was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, she could understand what they were saying. She understood the language of the beastmen. Little female, what's wrong? Rui saw that the little female was in a daze, and he asked with concern. I'm fine. Qian Jia said the beastman's language in a tongue twister, and Rui was very surprised. This is the blessing that God gave to this female beast. What is your name? The shamaness asked Qian Jia. My name is Qian Jia. The shamaness nodded with satisfaction. From now on, your name is Jia. You are a member of the winged tiger race. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu looked at the witch, this female stick, calling Qian Jia a goddess. She didn't know what to say. But Ning Shu was very curious about what the oval-shaped stone was. It looked like something good. 2333 system, what is that? Ning Shu asked 2333 in his heart. 2333 said with surprise, I did not expect this place to have 1,000-world stone. What is the 10,000-world stone? Ning Shu asked, his eyes staring at the 10,000-world stone on the altar, feeling that it was a good thing. The 10,000-world stone can only be found in high-level planes. It's the cornerstone that supports a plane. However, the 10,000-world stone is even more amazing because it records the entire plane's matters. The formation of the laws are all recorded inside. Don't be fooled by its small size. It contains the endless vast process of the formation of the plane's laws. This thing is extremely precious. If a powerful expert obtains the 10,000 world stone and comprehends the laws within, their future will be limitless. 2333 was also a little excited. What a lucky bastard. Ning Shu clutched his chest. Damn, such a good thing was right in front of him, but he couldn't get it. It was heartbreaking. Ning Shu took a deep breath and asked, "What about Qian Jia?" 2333 said, "Maybe it saw that Qian Jia had some luck, so the 1,000 world stone gave her some benefits." Damn, the main character is so awesome. I also want to touch the 10,000 world stone. The beastmen all gathered around and greeted the new female beastman. Qian Jia struggled to deal with them. For example, they asked her where she came from and what she was wearing. Some female beastmen reached out and pulled Qian Jia's hair, causing her to grimace in pain. Rui immediately transformed into a tiger, carried Qian Jia on his back, and flew away. Ning Shu walked in front of the altar and looked at the 10,000 world stone. His heart was really pounding. Ning Shu retracted his gaze and walked in front of the feathery shaman. He said to the shaman, "Shaman, I want to become the shaman of the tribe." The shaman was stunned. He didn't say anything and just turned around and left. Ning Shu followed behind him and entered the shaman's cave. The shaman's cave had the smell of herbs. Ning Shu was once again sure that he wanted to become a shaman. The shaman sat on a stone bench and looked at Ning Shu. He asked, "Rui, I remember that your future partner is Guy. If you want to become a shaman, can't you be Guy's partner?" "Yes, I want to become a shaman," Ning Shu said. As for Guy, Ning Shu had already forgotten about him. He would be the female lead's partner sooner or later. Why? The shaman looked confused. "Your future partner is living well, and he is a strong male. What are you not satisfied with?" The shaman took off the feathers on his head. "You have to know that I will not have a partner in this life. I have to be pure and communicate with God." The shaman looked at Ning Shu. "You have to think about this carefully." "Shaman, I feel like Guy doesn't like me. He likes the new female lead, Jia," Ning Shu said directly. "I want to learn herbs from you and help the tribe." The shaman stared at Ning Shu sharply. "Jia is already Rui's partner. She won't get in the way of you and Guy." Ning Shu shook his head. "Shaman, I feel like I am a useless person in the tribe. I want to do something for the tribe. I feel like Guy doesn't want to be my partner." The shaman stared at Ning Shu for a long time. Ning Shu and the shaman looked at each other. Finally, the shaman said, "Then you can learn herbs from me for a while. As for becoming a shaman, we will talk about it later." Obviously, the shaman thought that this young female was just being naughty. As for teaching her herbs, it was for the good of the tribe. Ning Shu nodded. She didn't care whether she could become a shaman or not. She just wanted to be known as a doctor. After all, Ning Shu had been with the miracle doctor for a long time. She knew herbs and could treat some simple diseases. However, if she suddenly knew how to treat diseases, even the most simple-minded primitive people would feel that something was wrong. Besides, primitive people weren't really simple-minded. They were smart. After achieving his goal, Ning Shu told the shaman that he would come to learn the next day. The shaman just nodded casually. She didn't care much about what Ning Shu said. Ning Shu passed by the sacrificial square on his way back. He glanced at the stone of all worlds and looked away with difficulty. Then, he saw Ji waiting for him. Ning Shu suddenly felt warm. Although it was hard to survive, people got along well with each other. Looking at Ji walking toward him, Ning Shu swore in his heart that he would cultivate qi and change his fate. He also wanted to save Ji. If possible, he wanted to save as many abandoned females as possible. He wanted to fulfill the original owner's wish. Ji was a little younger than this body. Her future partner was still uncertain. However, many male orcs had their eyes on her. But now, Qian Jia was here. The male orcs had never seen such a beautiful female before. They became picky. It could be said that Qian Jia's arrival had subtly lowered the status of the female orcs. In addition, Qian Jia had more than one partner. Every male orc wanted to be her partner. The female orcs, who used to be precious, became dispensable. Some male orcs even wanted to be partners with the female orcs. They didn't cherish them as much as before. Chapter 330. Ning Shu began his busy life of practicing martial arts at night and learning herbs from the shaman during the day. When Ji heard that Ning Shu was learning from the shaman, her face changed immediately. Damn, why do you want to learn from the shaman? Do you want to be a shaman? Ning Shu said carelessly, I want to be a shaman, but the shaman doesn't seem to like me. Fuck, witches are not allowed to have partners. Although they have a noble status in the tribe, they are still lonely. You have Kai, why do you want to be a witch? Ji tried to persuade Ning Shu. She felt that there was something wrong with her neighbor's head. Both Ji and Chao had no parents, so they were very close. Ji didn't want Chao to be lonely for the rest of her life. Other female orcs who were close to Ning Shu heard the news and came to persuade Ning Shu, which made Ning Shu feel helpless. She was really just there to learn. Why did these people think that it was not good to be a shaman without a partner? In fact, Ning Shu wanted to be a shaman. At least he had a high status, which was similar to the chief of the tribe. He was respected. As for a partner, Ning Shu could only laugh. However, Ning Shu accepted the good intentions of these female beast men. They were all concerned about her. Ning Shu said that he was sick and scared, so he wanted to learn about herbs from the shaman. Ji was skeptical, but there was no way to stop Ning Shu from going to the shaman's cave. As soon as Ning Shu walked into the cave, he smelled the fragrance of herbs, which was very pleasant. In the shaman's cave, there were a few brightly colored stones and seashells. There was a stone bed in the cave, and the bed was covered with animal skins. The shaman's cave was probably the best in the entire tribe. When the shaman saw Ning Shu, he pointed to the herbs on the stone bench and told Ning Shu what they were for. Ning Shu looked at the herbs on the stone bench. It was prunella, which was used to clear heat and detoxify, clear the liver and improve eyesight. It was used to treat diarrhea and diarrhea. For orcs who had been eating smoked meat, prunella was really important. However, the herb in the shaman's mouth wasn't prunella, but some kind of divine herb. If there was a problem, it would be fed to the beast men. Ning Shu was speechless. Is it really okay to eat like this? It seemed like the shaman didn't know a lot of herbs. Ning Shu had learned all the herbs that the shaman knew. Thinking about how he had read so many books from the godly doctor, he realized that learning was indeed important. Although these things took up a lot of time, there was no telling when this knowledge would be of great use. When the shamaness saw that Ning Shu was learning seriously, she looked better. She even took out a small stone and gave it to Ning Shu. She asked Ning Shu to try to communicate with the stone. As long as he could communicate with the god stone, he would be able to communicate with God. Ning Shu looked at the stone that looked very similar to the 10,000 world stone, and his heart started to pound. Damn, could this be the 10,000 world stone? Shaman, what is this? Ning Shu swallowed his saliva and stammered. The shaman said, actually, they are also God's stones. 2333, is this the 10,000 world stone? Ning Shu asked excitedly. 2333 was silent for a moment and said, it's not the 10,000 world stone. It can barely be considered a pseudo 10,000 world stone. There are laws in it, but it can't be compared to the 10,000 world stone. Oh, Ning Shu was a bit disappointed, but the shaman gave this to her. Did she want to make her a shaman? I'm old, and I'm looking for someone to become a shaman. Since you want to become a shaman, try to communicate with the God Stone. If you can, then God will choose you. The shaman said. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu felt annoyed when she heard the shaman's words, but she couldn't get distracted at all. He took the pseudo 10,000 world stone and went back. Back in the cave, Ning Shu held the God Stone and tried to communicate with it. But who could tell her how to talk to a stone? Ning Shu tried to send her consciousness into the pseudo 10,000 world stone like a contract spirit beast. Ning Shu didn't expect her consciousness to really enter the 10,000 world stone and see what was inside. Ning Shu felt like she was watching a movie. She saw what was recorded in the 10,000 world stone. The world was barren. There was nothing. There was no water, no sky, no trees. There was nothing. In the boundless desolation, a figure suddenly appeared in the air. This figure was completely black, like a shadow. It was impossible to see what it looked like, and it was unknown whether it was a man or a woman. It was looking down from above. Ning Shu even felt that the person's eyes were filled with endless coldness. It was as if the person was looking at her. He waved his hand and the sky became clear. 2 suns appeared in the sky. Green grass quickly appeared on the ground and then quickly grew into towering trees. Soon, the entire world was a forest. Then, a bird appeared in her hand. The bird spread its wings and flew to the branches. Then, many animals appeared in the forest. There were all kinds of animals and even dinosaurs. The black figure pointed at a lion and then the lion turned into a person. It crawled in front of the black figure. Then, all kinds of beastmen appeared. The black figure casually threw a 10,000 world stone on the ground and disappeared. Then, he recorded some messy things. Ning Shu was sweating. He retracted his consciousness with difficulty. He was in a state of shock. Damn, there really is a God. Damn, my 3 views. To be able to create things so casually, if this wasn't a God, then what was? So, what she said about the beastman's ability to transform was given by a god was true. The problem was that Ning Shu didn't see who it was at all. Ning Shu calmed himself down and curled his lips. Now, it seemed that the 10,000 world stone on the altar had an owner. Snatching something from such a powerful person was definitely courting death. There was actually such a powerful person in the world. Ning Shu's 3 views were overturned. He was worse than an ant now. Ning Shu told 2333 what he saw in the pseudo 10,000 world stone. After a moment of silence, she said, "Now, it seems that this world should be a place where a top person collects the power of faith. Ning Shu, don't be stupid. If you want to take the 10,000 world stone, we will all die. I'm about to pee my pants. I won't even dare to look at the 10,000 world stone in the future." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Taking a deep breath, Ning Shu decided to forget what he saw. Looking at things of a higher level would only make one more depressed. But Ning Shu saw his position clearly. He was just an ant struggling to survive. Working hard to survive was more important than anything else. Ning Shu calmed himself down and continued to cultivate. The most important thing now was to complete the mission. As for other things, they were just floating clouds. But that gaze was so scary. Woo-woo, the next day, Ning Shu told the shaman that he couldn't communicate with the God Stone. When the shaman heard that, she almost threw a rock at Ning Shu. How can it be so easy to communicate with the God Stone? It has only been a day, you are too anxious. Chapter 331. After coming out of the cave, Ning Shu bumped into Guy. Ning Shu didn't think that Guy was looking for him. Ever since he came to this world, Ning Shu had only said one sentence to Guy, "You're sick." "Oh, I'm much better." Other than that, they didn't talk at all. Ning Shu suspected that Guy didn't like the original owner of this body. Even without Qian Jia, Ning Shu felt that they wouldn't be together. Ning Shu and Guy brushed past each other. Guy was stunned for a second, then he caught up with Ning Shu and asked, "Why are you leaving?" Ning Shu looked at him in surprise and said, "Why are you looking for me? If you don't talk to me, I can only leave." Guy looked at Ning Shu with his tiger-like eyes. He paused for a second and said, "I heard from Ji that you're learning something from the shaman. Do you want to be a shaman?" "It depends on the shaman." "I'm just learning about herbs from the shaman," Ning Shu said calmly. Ning Shu realized that Guy didn't love him much. From the original owner of this body, Guy would be his partner for as long as he could remember. There must be a reason why Guy became the original owner of this body. However, there was no chance for them to be partners now. Guy only had Qian Jia in his heart. Besides, her current task was to become the president of the Women's Federation and save the women of the Winged Tiger tribe. She didn't have time to talk to him. Ning Shu and Guy both fell silent. They didn't know what to say, and the atmosphere was very awkward. I. You go first, Ning Shu said. Guy was silent for a second and said, "If you want to be a shaman, I'll help you. I promised your father that I'll take good care of you." Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu suddenly didn't know what to say. Guy sounded very sincere, but his future partner was going to be a shaman and would be lonely for the rest of her life. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu put on a fake smile, making her face look even uglier. She said, "Thank you, I can solve my own problem." Then, she turned around and left. It seemed that the reason Guy was able to become Cao Cao's future companion was because of the original owner's father. It was just a responsibility. Guy stared at Ning Shu's back, sighed, and left. While Ning Shu was busy every day, Qian Jia and Rui's days were also very prosperous. They knew that they could no longer go back. Qian Jia settled down and worked hard to live her life. Moreover, Qian Jia was very satisfied to have such a loving husband. Qian Jia tried her best to make her life better. She was not used to sleeping on a stone bed, so she wanted to make a wooden bed. Although this wooden bed was just a wooden plank on a stone bed, it was much better than sleeping on a stone bed. In terms of food, Qian Jia tried her best to make the food better. She even invented the stone pot. Although the stone pot was not forbidden, it was good to be able to cook meat until it was soft. In addition, with Rui taking her out, Qian Jia could occasionally find some good spices, such as pepper and ginger, which could remove the fishy smell of the meat. When cooking meat, she added some sweet and sour wild fruits. The taste was many times better than roasted meat. Every day, the fragrance from Rui's cave made the people in the tribe crazy. One by one, they went into Rui's cave, wanting to taste the fragrant food. However, Rui, who loved his wife madly, drove them out. The food that his partner made was not enough for him. He did not want the food that his partner made to be eaten by these people. Every time she saw that others liked to eat the food that she made, Qian Jia was very happy. Before she transmigrated, she would always learn how to make the food that she liked. She did not expect that she would be able to use her skills now. Qian Jia wanted to integrate into the tribe, especially the female beast men. So, she told Rui that if she wanted to treat the female beast men in the tribe to a meal, she needed to make more stone bowls. Of course, she also needed to prepare more meat, so Rui went out to hunt without saying anything. When they heard that the new female beast man was going to treat them, the female beast men in the tribe were very happy because the food that she made was famous for being delicious. As for how delicious it was, they did not know. On the day of the treat, they all went to Rui's cave, shouting and yelling. Ning Shu was not interested in joining in the fun, because after practicing day and night, she finally cultivated a weak breath. With this strength, Ning Shu ate a little bit of the spiritual marrow crystal powder. The strength was so weak that Ning Shu was afraid that it could not absorb Reiki. Fortunately, the Reiki was absorbed by the strength. It grew a little, but it was still not very strong. However, Ning Shu felt that his body was slowly changing. His bones were itching, and his body was slowly becoming stronger. Although he could not fly over roofs and run on walls, his body was much more agile and his physique was much stronger. If he fell into the river again, he would not catch a cold. Just as he was about to eat some more spiritual marrow crystal powder, he heard Ji's footsteps coming in his direction. Ning Shu immediately gave up meditating. Ji often came to visit her. After a long time, Ning Shu would know if it was her when he heard the footsteps. When Ji walked into the cave, Ning Shu asked, "Why are you still sitting here? Let's go, or we won't be able to eat it." Ning Shu saw that there was a flower in Ji's hair. Her hair was not tied up, and a wild flower seemed to be about to fall. "What are you doing? Why are you arranging a flower?" Ning Shu asked in surprise. He suspected that Ji had taken a fancy to some male beast man. A woman would dress up for her lover. This was the same in every world. Ji touched the flower in her hair, but it fell. Ji picked up the flower and said, "Didn't the new female beast man invite us to eat? I want to look better. So that's why." Ning Shu walked to the entrance of the cave, picked up a sturdy grass stem, and asked Ji to squat down. He combed Ji's messy hair with his fingers, tied her hair with the grass stem, and put the flower in her hair. It looked much more refreshing. Ji touched her hair in surprise. She smiled and said, "Damn, you're amazing. Do you want a flower? I'll find one for you. You can also fix your hair. Let's go to Rui's cave together." Ning Shu was too lazy to do it. She really wanted to cut her hair. She combed her hair with her fingers every day, and her fingers felt like they were going to break. Without shampoo, she could not wash her hair clean even if she went to the river. "I'm not going. You go." She had more important things to do. There was nothing more important than improving her strength. She would not go to this kind of party. It's not easy to have a lot of delicious food. I heard there's a lot of meat. Why don't you go? Ji looked at Ning Shu as if she were stupid. She pulled Ning Shu away. With Ning Shu's current strength, he could get rid of Ji's hand, but Ning Shu did not. Besides, he was tired of eating barbecued meat these days. If it were not for the energy in his body, Ning Shu would not eat it. There were not many fasting pills left. If he ate more, there would be none left. Chapter 332. When they arrived at Rui's cave, there were already many people gathered in front of the cave entrance. They were cooking on the flat ground outside the cave entrance. Qian Jia was warmly entertaining these female orcs who came as guests. Then, he busied himself and started cooking. All the female orcs were very curious about how Qian Jia could make such fragrant food. They were especially curious about the Swiss Army knife in Qian Jia's hand, which could easily cut the meat. Qian Jia generously told them all her methods. No matter what the female orcs asked, Qian Jia answered generously. Qian Jia felt very proud of using her ability to change the people around her. Ning Shu looked at Qian Jia. She was wearing a different t-shirt from before. She had animal skin around her waist, and her hair was combed into a beautiful centipede braid. Then she tied it with a lace-like ribbon and tied it into a bow. She looked fresh and beautiful. There was a world of difference between her and the female orcs around her. Ning Shu looked at the lace hair band on her head and wondered if it was the lace on her underwear. Ji, who was standing next to Ning Shu, saw such a beautiful Qian Jia. She touched the wildflowers on her head and felt a little inferior. Ning Shu pulled Ji's hand and whispered, "Ji, I think you're prettier than Qian Jia." Ji smiled and joined the group of people who were asking how to cook the meat. Ning Shu sat on the stone bench and looked at Qian Jia, who was busy but at ease. She held a fish in her hand and told the female orcs that it was edible. The female orcs were skeptical. It couldn't be eaten. The thorns would choke people to death. Qian Jia smiled mysteriously and put the fish in the stone pot. She boiled the fish into a milky white fish soup, which smelled quite good. Ning Shu smiled. This was the reason why the original owner didn't take revenge on Qian Jia. Even if his future partner became one of Qian Jia's partners, he didn't want to do anything to Qian Jia. Qian Jia's arrival had indeed made the entire winged tiger tribe better. Everything that flew in the sky and swam in the water could become delicious in her hands. She had greatly enriched the winged tiger tribe's diet and made food less scarce in winter. The discovery of salt mines allowed food to be stored longer. Building houses meant that the orcs did not have to live in damp, dark caves. Qian Jia's great achievements, no one could erase her contributions. Grass only wanted to survive. In this cruel environment, survival was the most important thing. Chao didn't have any resentment towards Qian Jia, but he didn't understand why he was abandoned by his tribe. After being busy for a long time, the sumptuous dishes were served. There was so much delicious food on the stone table that every female beast man was drooling. Qian Jia gave each female orc a stone bowl and chopsticks made of twigs. The orcs did not know how to use the chopsticks at all. They wanted to reach into the soup to scoop the meat, but the soup was very hot, so they could only learn how to use the chopsticks stiffly. Ning Shu pretended that he was not used to using chopsticks, but after a while, he gradually got used to it. He picked up the meat and put it in the stone bowl in front of Ji, who was scratching her ears and cheeks anxiously. Ji immediately picked up the meat in the bowl and stuffed it into her mouth. She exclaimed exaggeratedly, "It's so delicious, so delicious." Qian Jia's eyes flashed when she saw Ning Shu familiarizing himself with the chopsticks so quickly. After hearing Ji's words, she smiled and said, "This is just simple cooking. If there are more seasonings, it will taste better." "There's a better taste." Ji's eyes lit up. "It's already so delicious. How delicious can it be?" The other female orcs were amazed and praised Qian Jia with their most sincere words. Qian Jia looked at Ning Shu's calm face and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm Qian Jia. You can call me Jia." "She's Chao." Before Ning Shu could say anything, Ji spoke for Ning Shu first. "Chao." Qian Jia was stunned for a moment, then she smiled and said, "Chao, do you want to go out with us to eat wild vegetables and look for wild fruits? It's delicious to cook meat." Ning Shu didn't expect Qian Jia to take the initiative to invite him out. Besides, Ning Shu wanted to go out to pick some herbs. Usually, the tribe didn't allow female orcs to go out, but Qian Jia was different. Her partner was the chief's son, so she had a lot of power. If Qian Jia wanted to go out, he would agree. Didn't Rui take Qian Jia out for a walk before? Okay. Ning Shu agreed very quickly. When the others heard that they were going out to look for herbs, they all asked to go together. They all wanted to cook delicious meat. Qian Jia looked a little embarrassed. She said, "I have to tell Rui about this. It's impossible for all of us to go. Only a few can go at a time. I have to go." "I'll go wherever Chao goes," Ji said quickly. The atmosphere of this meal was very harmonious. Qian Jia intended to integrate into this group. In addition, the beastmen were not scheming and they all admired Qian Jia. After this meal, they all treated Qian Jia as their own friend, a friend that they admired. Although there was a lot of food prepared, it was all eaten by the female orcs. There was no soup or water left. No one ate the fish soup. Qian Jia smiled and demonstrated. She pulled out the fish bones and ate the snow-white fish. Only then did the female orcs dare to eat. After eating, the female orcs helped to clean up. Ning Shu also helped. He looked at the oily stone bowl and chopsticks and wondered how to wash them. Qian Jia grabbed a handful of mud from the ground, rubbed the stone bowl, and then washed it with water. Obviously, Qian Jia was very adapted to primitive life. In this world, she was unique. Many female orcs asked Qian Jia what she was wearing. Qian Jia's face showed a dazed expression. She said, "This is cotton. It's something from my hometown. It's really good and comfortable." "Where is your hometown? How did you come here? Did your tribe abandon you?" a female orc asked Qian Jia. Qian Jia shook her head. "I came here because of an accident, but I can't go back. I have to live here in the future." The female orcs all comforted her. Qian Jia saw that this female orc called Chao was very quiet. When she looked at her, her eyes were very calm. Qian Jia was used to the orc's praises. Suddenly, there was an orc who was not intimate with her and was very indifferent to her. This made Qian Jia a little uncomfortable, so she tried to find a topic. Ning Shu asked, "Well, what do you do when your aunt comes?" Ning Shu's mouth twitched and did not say anything. Joey thought that Ning Shu did not understand what he meant, so he asked, "She bleeds every month. How do you solve it?" Ning Shu said, "Oh, you don't have to solve it. Let it flow. When it flows out, you can grab a handful of dry grass and wipe your legs. You can also wash it with water." Qian Jia was speechless. Qian Jia felt that this was not a pleasant topic. She felt like she was choking. Chapter 333. Qian Jia captivated all the female beastmen in the tribe with a single meal. In addition, Qian Jia was very generous. After the meal, she even taught these female beastmen how to take care of their hair. She even gave them some simple soap. This soap was the simplest. It was made from a mixture of plant ash and animal fat. It would solidify and become the simplest soap. When the female beastmen heard that this thing could wash their bodies and hair, they were very surprised. Then, a large group of females ran to the river to wash their hair. Ning Shu looked at the small soap in his hand. There was still plant ash in the yellow and white oil. He followed these female beastmen to the river to wash their hair. After washing with the simple soap, his hair was indeed much cleaner than before. Ning Shu really wanted to ask Chica what she majored in at the university. She knew how to make soap, burn clay pots, build houses, and forge iron when she discovered iron ore. She directly made the primitive world skip the Bronze Age and enter the Iron Age. Everything was in Qian Jia's hands, and she easily succeeded. Although she failed twice, she would always succeed. In fact, Qian Jia was an omnipotent Mary Sue. However, this had nothing to do with her. Her mission did not conflict with the female lead Qian Jia. It was necessary to maintain peace. Ning Shu borrowed something from Qian Jia. "Jia, can you give me your knife, the thing you use to chop meat? I want to cut my hair." Ning Shu had been impatient with his hair for a long time. His hair already reached his butt. When he sat down, it was very troublesome to sit on his hair. Qian Jia was stunned for a moment. She smiled at Ning Shu and said, "Okay." Qian Jia returned to her cave and gave her Swiss Army knife to Ning Shu. Ning Shu pretended that he did not know how to use it and looked at Qian Jia. Qian Jia patted her head and took the knife in Ning Shu's hand. She said, "You don't know how to use it, right? This is a very common thing in our world. It's called a knife. Let me help you cut your hair." Thank you." Ning Shu's mouth twitched as she spoke. She felt that Qian Jia's words were filled with a strong sense of superiority. After Qian Jia helped Ning Shu cut a few strands of hair, Ning Shu did it himself. Because it was done with a knife, it looked like a dog had gnawed on it. Although it didn't look good, Ning Shu felt very comfortable. Qian Jia was a very charming girl. After a meal, all the female beastmen liked and worshipped her. On the way back, Ji kept praising Qian Jia, her eyes full of envy. Ning Shu said, Jia is really a good female orc. Many orcs will like her. No wonder Rui likes her. Ning Shu could tell that there was something wrong with Rui. Ning Shu looked at Ji and asked, do you like Rui? Why should I like Rui? Ji looked at Ning Shu and asked in surprise, I saw that Rui was very cold to all the female orcs in the tribe, but now he likes Jia so much. Ning Shu thought, I'm sorry, hey, why did you make your hair like this? It's really ugly. All the female orcs in the tribe have long hair. You look so ugly. Guy won't like it. Ji's expression was very exaggerated. She almost covered her head and screamed. Ning Shu flipped his hair and said, of course, I'll do whatever is comfortable. Ji looked at Ning Shu with disappointment and said, last time I told Guy that you're a witch. Did he say anything to you? Ning Shu shook his head and said, he said he'll help me become a witch. Ji was speechless. Ji frowned. Doesn't he know that you can't have a partner when you're a witch? You're going to be a witch. Why didn't he stop you from becoming a witch? Maybe he doesn't want to be my partner at all. Forget it, it's not a big deal. Aren't we going out of the tribe with Jia tomorrow to look for good things? Let's prepare more things. Ning Shu changed the topic. Because the female orcs were curious about where Qian Jia's food came from, Qian Jia said that she would take them out of the tribe to look for ingredients. As long as they followed Qian Jia out, they would be able to find a lot of things. Yes, I've never been out of the tribe. I'll make a basket. Ji suddenly forgot about Guy and said to Ning Shu, do you want a basket? I'll make one for you. Okay. Ning Shu nodded. He found a vine as thick as a finger for Ji and pulled it out directly. He dragged it to the entrance of Ji's cave and asked Ji to make a basket. Ji looked at Ning Shu with her mouth wide open. Your strength? How did you pull it out? I pulled it out with a little strength. Ning Shu clapped his hands and said, is it enough? I'll get more if it's not enough. It's enough. Only male orcs can pull it out. Ji muttered and began to make a basket. Ning Shu watched from the side. The basket made by Ji was very ugly. Some parts were loose, and some parts were tight. Each basket was different in size, but it was enough as long as it was practical. The next day, Ning Shu and Ji each took an ugly basket to the ritual square. There were several female orcs and a few male orcs there. Qian Jia was talking to several female orcs. When she saw Ning Shu and Ji coming over, she smiled and said, we were waiting for you. Qian Jia was wearing a t-shirt and a pair of denim shorts today, which was very different from the others. Ning Shu looked at the male orcs. Ning Shu only knew Rui and Kai, but he didn't know the others. Seeing Ning Shu's eyes on the male orcs, Qian Jia said slyly, they'll send us out of the tribe, stay with us, and protect us. They can also experience the feeling of flying in the sky. The feeling of flying in the sky? Ning Shu thought in the wrong way again. In this NP-dominated world, Ning Shu had to think in the wrong way. It was the first time that so many female orcs had come out of the tribe, so Rui brought the male orcs to protect these females. Besides, Rui didn't want to leave Qian Jia at all. One day apart felt like 3 years. He was looking for opportunities to be with Qian Jia. Now, Qian Jia was simply shining, and all the male orcs in the square were looking at her. Qian Jia didn't seem to know that her every move was beautiful. Her shallow smile and dimples made a group of beasts drool. Seeing such a beautiful chica and seeing so many male beast men looking at him with eyes full of envy, jealousy, and hatred, Rui's heart was filled with pride, bitterness, and pride. Such a female orc seemed to have endless abilities and knew a lot. She was his partner. However, Rui wasn't sure if such a perfect partner belonged to him. She was the goddess that the shaman talked about. Was he qualified to have a goddess forever? Now, Roy's heart was worried about gains and losses. He tasted the sweetness and bitterness of the fruit of love. Ning Shu glanced at Kai. He found that Kai was a quiet and calm person. Although he was looking at the beautiful Qian Jia, his eyes were more restrained than the other orcs. As if he noticed that someone was looking at him, Kai turned his head and looked at Ning Shu. Kai was stunned for a moment and looked away. He didn't look at Ning Shu or Qian Jia. Chapter 334. Ning Shu looked at Gai's expression. He looked at Qian Jia with an expression of love that he didn't even realize he was looking at her with affection and doting. Of course, Gai's love would eventually move Qian Jia and make her one of his partners. However, there was no precedent for a female orc to have more than 2 partners, so Gai was suffering because he liked someone else's partner. Ning Shu felt that he deserved it. Although the quest didn't say anything about Gai, it didn't stop Ning Shu from gloating. The orc transformed into a tiger with wings and carried the female orcs out of the tribe. Qian Jia was the first to get on Roy's back, and the other female orcs got on the male orcs' backs. Then, Ning Shu was left alone. Gai hesitated for a moment, then walked to Ning Shu and said, "Get on my back." Ning Shu grabbed the tiger's fur and got on Gai's back without hesitation. The fur was very soft, and it was good to make fur. It was the best fur. Gai flapped his wings and flew into the sky, catching up with the team flying in front. Sitting on the tiger's back, Ning Shu felt the wind in his ears. The breeze was very comfortable, and he could see the endless forest. The whole world seemed to be a primitive forest. It was a good environment. Not far away from the tribe, Roy, who was flying in front, said, "It's our first time out. We can't go too far. Let's stop here." Then, they slowly landed. Because it was their first time out of the tribe, the female orcs were very excited. They looked around with curiosity on their faces. They had lived in the tribe since they were young, and their elders had told them that the outside world was very dangerous. The female orcs were too weak, and the outside world was very dangerous for them. Now that they were out of the tribe, the female orcs were excited, surprised, and a little scared. She ran over with a basket in her hand and held Ning Shu's hand. She was obviously a little scared. Ning Shu smiled at her, grabbed her hand, and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Ning Shu felt that what the tribe was doing was a little inhumane. Locking up the female beastmen in the tribe and imprisoning them in the name of protection. One had to know that any evolution and adaptation to an environment was full of blood. Qian Jia, who was walking in the front, said to everyone, "This forest is full of treasures and edible things. However, it is also very dangerous. When you are looking for things, you should pay attention to snakes, insects, rats, and ants." Beside Qian Jia, there was a black fungus growing on a withered tree. She said to everyone, "This thing is also good. Take it back and dry it. Then, fry it with meat and eat it. It's very delicious." When the female orc heard that it was edible, she began to pick them. Qian Jia pointed at the mushrooms growing on the ground. "These things are very fresh when used to make soup." When the female orc heard this, she started looking for mushrooms. She picked a very bright-colored mushroom. Ning Shu said, "Fuck, look at this. It's so big. This can't be done, this can't be eaten." Before Ning Shu could finish, Qian Jia came over and said sternly to Ji, "This is poisonous. For things like mushrooms, the brighter the color, the more poisonous they are. Remember, this kind of mushroom can't be eaten." Ji was startled by Qian Jia's serious look. She looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said, "Since Qian Jia said that it's poisonous, throw it away." "Oh." Ji hurriedly threw the poisonous mushroom away. Qian Jia picked some porcelain. Every time she picked something, she would explain to the female orc that it was edible. Ning Shu was not interested in the wild vegetables. Instead, he picked a few herbs. Ji was very excited when she heard Qian Jia say that it was edible. When Ji saw that there were only some herbs in Ning Shu's basket, she quickly said, "Fuck, why do you only have so little? I'll share it with you." "No, I have herbs. Take them back and dry them. Light them in the cave. They can drive away mosquitoes," Ning Shu said. Even if she brought these ingredients back, she couldn't cook them. She didn't know how to cook, and now she didn't even have the tools to cook. Ning Shu was not interested in these things. "Okay, I'll help you pick the herbs." Ji had a bright smile on her face. Her face was sweaty, and she smiled brightly. Ning Shu saw that. It was just a trip, but they were so happy. Perhaps these female orcs had discovered their value, so they were so happy. The atmosphere in the team was very warm. The baskets of the female orcs were filled with all kinds of edible things, including wild vegetables, and even spices like pepper and ginger. The male orcs protected the female orcs and helped them carry the baskets. Ning Shu held a wooden stick in his hand and pushed aside the thorns to look for herbs. Fortunately, he found some basic and practical herbs, some herbs that could cure colds, and some herbs that could treat wounds and stop bleeding. If one was injured, they could directly chew the herbs and apply them to the wound to stop bleeding quickly. Ning Shu's basket was the one with the least things in the team, and Ji's basket was full. As long as she heard that it was edible, Ji would stuff it into the basket. Her basket was full, and she also stuffed it into Ning Shu's basket. Ning Shu was speechless. "You don't even know what to do with these things when you bring them back. Why did you bring so many of them?" Chica, who was walking in front, cried out in pain. Then, she fell down and rolled on the sand, eating a mouthful of mud. Hearing Qian Jia's voice, all the male orcs threw away the baskets in their hands and swarmed toward Qian Jia. Even many female orcs ran over to help Qian Jia out of concern. Ji was a little slow to watch the orcs swarm in chaos. Ning Shu saw a small snake coiled around her feet, sticking out its tongue and opening its mouth to bite her calf. Ning Shu raised the branch in his hand and instantly hit the snake's head, making it change shape. "Fuck!" Ji stared at Ning Shu in a daze, and then her face was instantly filled with fear. Ning Shu said angrily, "Pay attention to your surroundings. Don't worry, hold a stick in your hand." "Okay, okay." Ji quickly picked up a branch on the ground and followed Ning Shu's example, pushing aside the thorns and weeds. Ning Shu looked at Qian Jia, who had just fallen down. Everyone was concerned about her, and the male orcs turned a blind eye to the real danger. They were all focused on Qian Jia. Since ancient times, the pursuit of beauty had been an instinct. It was really cruel. Qian Jia, who had fallen down, was in a daze with sand in her mouth. Seeing Qian Jia like this, Rui was worried to death. Even the calm guy showed anxiety on his face. "Jia, what's wrong with you?" Rui asked anxiously. Qian Jia spat out the sand in her mouth and suddenly hugged Rui and laughed. Ning Shu walked over and tasted some sand. It was salty, so there should be a salt mine below. No wonder there was no grass in this desert. It's salty, we found salt." Qian Jia shouted happily. When she came to this world, her biggest regret was that there was no salt. Without salt, the food she made was really tasteless. Now, they had found a salt mine. Chapter 335. Qian Jia was so happy that she jumped up and down. Rui looked at her and was even more worried. However, in order to avoid any mistakes, Qian Jia said to Rui, "Can you dig into the sand? The deeper the better. See if there is a salt mine inside." Guy was the first to transform into a tiger and began to dig into the sand with his claws. The other male beast men also transformed into tigers and began to dig into the sand. "What are they doing?" Ji asked Ning Shu in a daze. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Sure enough, the female lead was very lucky. She only fell down and found a salt mine. This sand had existed for a long time, but only the female lead had found a salt mine. The other female beastmen saw Qianjia so excited and asked her what was going on. Qianjia smiled brightly and said to the female beastmen, "This is good stuff. Add a little when you cook and it will make the food taste better. It can also be used to marinate meat and preserve it for a long time." "Wow, really? That's amazing." The surrounding people heard and shouted. Looking at the male beastmen working in full swing, their eyes were filled with anticipation. Finally, Rui dug out something. It was a white crystal. When Qianjia saw the crystal, she immediately ran over and hugged Rui. She shouted, "There really is salt. There really is salt. That's great, that's great." Qianjia was so happy that she kissed Rui. Rui's expression suddenly rippled. The other beastmen also wanted to get a kiss from Qianjia, but Rui kicked them away. Rui sent someone back to inform the chieftain. After a while, the chieftain and the shaman rushed over. Seeing the white crystal, the chieftain's face was filled with excitement. "Our winged tiger tribe also has a bitter crystal. Because the taste of salt was bitter and salty, it was called bitter crystal." The chieftain's eyes were filled with tears. Their tribe didn't have this kind of thing. Even if they went to other tribes to exchange, they wouldn't do it. Now that they found a bitter crystal mine, the chieftain was so happy that he cried. "Dad, Jia found it." Rui quickly said to his dad. He wanted to take credit for Qianjia. "Good, good." The chieftain said with a smile. "Patriarch, this isn't bitter crystal. This is salt." Qianjia emphasized. "What kind of name was bitter crystal?" "Alright, you're the one who found this thing. You can name it however you want." The leader was very kind to Qianjia. Shamaness also had a smile on her face. She knelt down and kowtowed to the sky, shouting, "God really blesses the Winged Tiger clan." Ning Shu was speechless. The discovery of the salt mine was a major event for the entire tribe. Qianjia had become the hero of the Winged Tiger tribe. Qianjia was a little embarrassed by these beastmen's praise. She quickly waved her hand and said, "I am also a member of the Winged Tiger tribe. I have been taken care of by everyone during this time. This is what I should do." "As expected, you were sent by God to the Winged Tiger clan." The clan leader nodded. The male Winged Tiger beastmen looked at Qianjia with even gentler eyes. Even the female Winged Tiger beastmen liked Qianjia very much. "Fuck, what's this? Why are the chief and the shaman so happy?" Ji was confused when she saw that everyone else was so happy. In fact, most of the beastmen didn't know why the chief and the shaman were so happy. However, when they saw that everyone was happy, they were happy too. Ning Shu shook his head and said lightly, "I don't know either." The clan leader waved his hand and asked a few male Winged Tiger beastmen to carry the salt back. Then, he covered the exposed salt mine with sand and told everyone, "This is the lifeblood of the Winged Tiger clan. You must not tell anyone." When everyone saw the clan leader's serious expression, they all said that they wouldn't tell anyone about the salt mine. Ning Shu looked at the salt and asked Qianjia, "Is this thing poisonous?" "How can it be poisonous?" Rui looked at Ning Shu unhappily. "Fuck, don't talk nonsense," Guy reminded Ning Shu. "Yeah, the chief said it's good stuff." "How can it be poisonous?" the other male Winged Tiger beastmen said. Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, did I say something disgraceful? Why was she being attacked by a group of people?" This was the difference between a beautiful woman and an ugly woman. Ning Shu felt that he had become the villain, and he was deliberately looking for trouble. "Fuck, I was just asking. Why are you so mean to her?" Ji stood up for Ning Shu. However, with so many people watching, her voice was trembling. Ning Shu's heart warmed. He shrugged and said, I was just asking. After all, I've never seen this kind of thing before. Can't I ask? The atmosphere suddenly became a little unpleasant. Ning Shu took her wicker basket, pulled the branch, and turned to leave. At this time, Qian Jia patted her head and said, Fuck, you reminded me that this kind of salt can't be eaten. There are some impurities in it and it also contains sulfur. It's harmful to the body. You have to boil it again before eating it. Qian Jia caught up with Ning Shu and said with a smile, Fuck, thank you for reminding me. Ning Shu said with a fake smile, I don't care. Seeing Ning Shu like this, Qian Jia asked, Are you angry? Jia, fuck isn't angry. Guy came over to comfort Qian Jia. Ning Shu was speechless. You are all great heroes of the winged tiger tribe, the chief said with a smile. Everyone returned to the tribe. The female beast men had a lot of things in their baskets. However, when they came back, these female beast men realized that they didn't know how to cook at all. They stared blankly at the pile of materials. Qian Jia waved her hand and said, We found a salt mine today. This is something to be happy about. Tonight, I'll let everyone have a taste of the dishes with salt. Okay. Qian Jia's suggestion received the approval of all the beast men. The main reason was that after eating Qian Jia's food, they couldn't eat the meat they roasted anymore. Rui said to Qian Jia helplessly and proudly, Won't this be too tiring? I don't want you to suffer too much. Qian Jia smiled and said, There are so many people here. With so many people helping, I won't tire myself out. This was the first time in the history of the tribe that it was so lively and quiet. The children and adults gathered together, and it was a lively scene. Every beast man had a smile on their faces. They sniffed and looked at the dishes in the stone pot. The cubs were playing with each other, and the little female beast man was watching the adults busying themselves. Her eyes were full of curiosity and questions. Ning Shu didn't know how to cook, so he helped wash the vegetables and prepare the chopsticks. Everyone was busy talking. Ning Shu sat alone on the side, grinding a stick and chopsticks on a stone. His face was calm and indifferent. Gidge didn't like this scene. Fuck, how many chopsticks did you get? Ji walked over and asked Ning Shu. They're all here. Ning Shu handed a bundle of chopsticks to Ji. Ji looked at Ning Shu's indifferent expression and asked, Fuck, are you still angry? Chapter 336. Ji looked at Ning Shu and said, I don't think you like Jia. Really? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He didn't have a bad impression of her, but he didn't have a good impression of her either. However, Ning Shu found it funny to see an ordinary girl go to another world and become a unique and brilliant woman. She was even a goddess sent by the gods. Ji sat beside Ning Shu with chopsticks. Ning Shu said, Everyone in the tribe likes Qian Jia now. I know you're angry because of Guy, but Jia is Rui's partner. It seemed that not everyone was blind. At least, Ji had seen through the problem. It should be said that most of the male winged tigers liked Qian Jia now, excluding the old ones. It could be said that all the young males had a good impression of Qian Jia. Her halo was so strong that Ning Shu didn't dare to look directly at her. It's okay. I'm not angry. Ning Shu shook his head. She was here to do a mission, not to be jealous. It was just that she had been through several worlds, and sometimes she didn't like Qian Jia's behavior. Maybe it was because she knew Qian Jia's background, so sometimes she felt very strange. Why did she become so powerful after transmigrating? The meal was ready in the afternoon. There were several stone tables full of stone bowls, and in the stone bowls were food that they had never seen before. Ning Shu looked at the dishes. Most of them were home-cooked dishes. Qian Jia must have put in a lot of effort to make them. After all, it was not easy to make such food under such harsh conditions. Everyone, eat. If it's not good, don't say it. I'll be sad, Qian Jia said with a smile. The chieftain laughed. I'm afraid it's not enough. Why would I say it's not good? Hey, I'm the chieftain. I haven't eaten yet, but you guys are eating first. Everyone joined the fight for food. Rui pulled Qian Jia to his side and said gently, you eat too. You're really tired today. Qian Jia smiled. Seeing these beastmen rushing to eat her food, Qian Jia couldn't help but feel proud. It felt good to be valued. Ning Shu noticed from the corner of his eyes that Guy, who was beside him, was looking at Qian Jia from time to time. His expression was very complicated. It was melancholy, gentle, and tangled. Ning Shu felt constipated. Ji had fallen in love with the spicy fish in hot chili oil. It was Qian Jia who had found the chili. When she had found the chili, Qian Jia had wanted to cook the fish in hot chili oil. Some beastmen liked boiled fish very much, but some didn't dare to eat it. Ning Shu put down his chopsticks after he was full. These things were incomparably attractive to the beastmen, but to Ning Shu, they were just ordinary things. Fuck, why aren't you eating? She turned around and saw that Ning Shu had already put down his chopsticks. She immediately picked up some food for Ning Shu and said, eat more. You eat. I'm full, Ning Shu said with a smile. Qian Jia saw that Ning Shu had stopped eating, but the other beastmen were still eating. Even if they were burping, they were still eating with great enjoyment on their faces. Ning Shu's expression was calm. Gij didn't eat, so Qian Jia felt a little uncomfortable. She asked, fuck, are these dishes not to your liking? As soon as Qian Jia said this, everyone at the table looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu twitched the corner of his mouth and said, I'm full. I can't eat anymore. Could it be that she still had to feed her after she was full? Even if there was an immortal pill, she wouldn't be able to eat it. I thought you didn't like it. What do you like to eat? If I know how to, I can teach you how to cook it. Qian Jia felt that this beastman called Grass was different from other beastmen. Qian Jia felt that Grass didn't like her, but the entire winged tiger tribe was very good to her. Why would Grass be hostile to her? Ning Shu didn't know why Qian Jia insisted on talking to him. He said perfunctorily, I like to eat all these. I've never eaten such delicious food. Qian Jia's eyes flashed with satisfaction. She smiled at Ning Shu and said, fuck, I like you very much. Let's keep in touch more in the future. Although Chica was smiling at Ning Shu, that bright and beautiful smile made Guy, who was standing beside Ning Shu, very fascinated. It was as if the smile was directed at him. Her shallow dimples showed off her white teeth. The sun shone on her face, creating a pure white halo, which made Guy's heart pound. Ning Shu said, I like you very much too. Let's keep in touch more. This was the hypocrisy of modern people. They didn't like each other, but they said that they liked each other. They ate until the moon was high in the sky. Ning Shu and Ji returned to their cave. Ji was holding a stone bowl with some moist crystal salt in it. Jia gave this to us. It's enough for us to eat for a long time. Jia said that it's delicious to put some on the meat when we barbecue, Ning Shu said. Ning Shu looked at the sky. There were already 3 moons. According to Ji, there were 10 moons in the sky when winter came. There was only hot summer and cold winter in this world. In the memory of the original owner, winter was the most difficult. It was cold and it snowed for the whole winter. There was no food. In winter, many female beastmen in the tribe died. Ning Shu felt that it was necessary to prepare in advance. Looking at the 3 big moons, Ning Shu felt that God's aesthetic was really abnormal. 2 suns and 10 moons. Ji, save the salt. It will be very useful in the future, Ning Shu said to Ji. After returning to the cave, Ning Shu took out the herbs in the basket and put them at the entrance of the cave where there was ventilation. In the future, he would go out to find more herbs, especially those to cure colds. If possible, Ning Shu also wanted to go hunting and marinate the meat to survive the winter. However, it was not easy for female beastmen to go out of the tribe. In the whole tribe, only Qian Jia could go out at any time, and she was escorted and protected. Goddesses were different after all. Even in a primitive society, classes still existed. But, he had to improve his strength first. Ning Shu ate a spiritual marrow crystal the size of a little finger. Suddenly, a horrible wave of Reiki swept over and was absorbed by the weak qi in his dantian. After absorbing the Reiki, his qi became stronger. Ning Shu clenched his fist and felt that his hand was stronger. With strength, Ning Shu's heart was more at ease. At least, he had the ability to protect himself. Ning Shu did not believe in beauty and charm. He only believed in strength. Only strength could protect himself and make him invincible. Maybe it was because Ning Shu and Qian Jia did not have a good relationship last time. Qian Jia took the female beastmen out to find things and did not bring Ning Shu anymore. Ning Shu knew that Qian Jia was upset. His attitude probably made Qian Jia unhappy. He wanted to go out to find herbs, but now he could not even go out of the tribe. Chapter 337. Qian Jia no longer took Ning Shu with her, but she would take Ji with her. Every time Ji came back, she would give Ning Shu a lot of things, such as wild grapes and other fruits. Now, the female orcs in the tribe liked to go out with Qian Jia. Every time they went out, there would be a lot of gains, so the female orcs were very keen to go out. Ji even explained to Ning Shu, Jia said that every time she goes out, it's a rotation. Next time, she will take you with her. Ning Shu didn't care much. Although it was a rotation, there was always Ji. Ning Shu even felt that Qian Jia was trying to sow discord between him and Ji. However, Ning Shu would not quarrel with Ji, who was close to him, because of Qian Jia. Every time Ji went out, Ning Shu would crush the herbs and apply them on her body. These herbs could repel insects and mosquitoes. Last time, Ji was almost bitten by a snake. The male orcs who followed to protect the female orcs all looked at Qian Jia. Some things could only depend on oneself. If something happened, one could only bear it and suffer by oneself. Ning Shu curled his lips. If you don't take me with you, can't I go by myself? Now she could protect herself. After Qian Jia and the others left, Ning Shu sneaked out of the tribe. However, he just looked around the tribe, looking for herbs and occasionally hunting wild rabbits. Ning Shu encountered a fat and strong roe deer. Ning Shu chased the roe deer for a while and finally killed it with his bare hands. Ning Shu clenched his fists. It was good to have strength. When he dragged the spoor back, Qian Jia's team had not returned yet. Ning Shu dragged the roe deer into the cave first. He didn't intend to hand over the spoor. This time, Qian Jia found wheat, and it was a mature wheat seed. She was very excited. Thinking that she could eat steamed buns in the future, Qian Jia felt that life was good. After Qian Jia came back, she asked Rui to cultivate a piece of land. Rui agreed very quickly and asked some male orcs in the tribe to help. Guy was the first to respond. Qian Jia made a lot of delicious food to reward them. When Ning Shu heard this news, his face twitched. Could it be that wheat was grown regardless of season? But Chica still managed to grow it. Perhaps this world didn't have seasons. There were no 4 seasons to begin with. Ji handed the herbs in the basket to Ning Shu and said, I saw you pick this last time. I don't know if this is what you want. Ning Shu saw that there were not many wild vegetables and fruits in Ji's basket. She guessed that Ji had already found herbs for her. Ning Shu was really touched. The stuff you apply on me works very well. I always get bites from the insects when I go out before, but they don't bite me anymore after I apply it, Ji said to Ning Shu with a smile. Then, she handed the fruit to Ning Shu and said, try this tomato. You can eat, I'm not eating. Ning Shu placed the herbs at the entrance of the cave to dry. Ning Shu thought for a moment and dragged the dead roe deer in front of Ji. Ji looked at the prey in surprise and asked, where did you get this? I sneaked out to collect herbs and met this one. I killed it and will keep it. When winter comes, we'll have food, Ning Shu said. Ji looked very surprised and scared. How could you sneak out? Without a male to protect you, what if you encounter danger? You actually went hunting? I'm very strong. It's okay. I'll protect myself. Let's salt the meat. Ning Shu had to store enough food now to deal with the disaster. Ji looked a little hesitant. Are we really not going to hand this in? The prey in the tribe had to be distributed. It was the first time that Ji had hidden it secretly. Ning Shu didn't care. We'll be fine as long as we don't let anyone find out. Because Ji can cook a lot of delicious food, Roy will definitely give more prey to Qianjia. In addition, Qianjia has contributed a lot to the tribe, so no orcs will say anything. But if we don't have enough food, we won't be able to survive the winter. Ning Shu persuaded Ji patiently. Some things were easier for two people to do. Ji bit her lips and finally nodded. She picked up a stone from the ground and sharpened it, preparing to cut open the robe. Ning Shu took the stone. I'll do it. I'm very strong. Ning Shu skinned the roe deer and found a place to bury it. Ji held the salt jar and saw Ning Shu rubbing a lot of salt on the meat. She said, should I ask Ji for more salt? Yes, but don't ask for too much at once. Ning Shu was already very frugal with salt. After rubbing the meat with salt, he rubbed it for a long time to let the meat taste and preserve it. A large bowl of salt was barely enough to marinate the roe deer. Ji found a stalk of grass and hung up the roe deer meat. Looking at so much meat, Ji was very satisfied. Ning Shu sighed and looked at the empty jar. Qianjia almost controlled the salt of the entire tribe. As long as she could boil the coarse salt, she would be able to use it. If the people in the tribe wanted salt, they would either go to Qianjia or the patriarch. Ning Shu wanted to get salt from the salt mine and cook it himself, but the salt mine was a little far from the tribe. Moreover, the chieftain valued the salt mine very much and did not allow the tribesmen to get it privately. Only Qianjia could get salt from the salt mine and cook it at will. Now Qianjia's status in the winged tiger tribe was infinitely high. The key was that the whole tribe liked her, except for Ning Shu. Ning Shu stayed in his cave when he had nothing to do. He was either practicing martial arts or collecting herbs. He was busy with his own things, and it felt like he did not talk to Qianjia at all. Ji asked Qianjia for salt every few days, but Qianjia did not give her much each time. After a few times, Qianjia was a little confused and asked Ji, why did you use up your salt so quickly? Ji said embarrassedly, I like salt. The barbecued meat is very delicious. Qianjia did not know whether to laugh or cry. She gave Ji a stone bowl of salt and said, you can't eat too much salt. It's not good for your health. By the way, why didn't Chow take any salt? She ate with me. That's why I used up my salt so quickly, Ji said. Qianjia's eyes flashed. She looked at Ji and said, it's good that Chow Chow has a friend like you, but she has to do some things herself. Let her come and get salt by herself in the future. Oh, Ji nodded and left with the stone bowl. Qianjia looked at Ji's back and leaned on Roy. She was a little discouraged and said, Roy, I feel that Chow Chow doesn't like me. Did I do something wrong? Roy immediately said, you're the best. No orc can compare to you. Chow Chow is just a female orc. She doesn't like you, but there are plenty of other orcs who like you. It's her loss if she doesn't like you. Roy said as he pinched Qianjia's delicate face. Roy only pinched it gently, but there were red marks on her face. Roy's heart ached. Qianjia smiled and said, "Honey, it's so good to meet you. It's my luck to meet you. Fortunately, I was the one who saved you." Chapter 338. P.S. Today's update is here, and at the same time, I'm trying to get more votes for the 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. Ji brought the salt back from Qianjiao. Ning Shu said, "Jia asked you to get the salt yourself. I feel that she's a little unhappy." Ning Shu was turning the bacon over to prevent it from smelling. Hearing Ji's words, he asked, "She's unhappy?" "Yes, she asked you to get the salt yourself. I took the salt too many times, and she's unhappy," Ji said to Ning Shu. "I feel that there's something between you and Jia." "What could there be?" Ning Shu said indifferently. Seeing the salt in Ji's hand, he said, "I'll go hunt some prey and marinate it later." Ji nodded. "Why don't you go and find Jia now? I feel that she's unhappy. We'll have to get the salt from her in the future." Ning Shu grabbed a handful of withered grass and wiped the grease on his hands. "I'll go now." Ning Shu arrived in front of Qianjia and Roy's cave. The entrance of Qianjia's cave had been reclaimed and fenced off. Some vegetables were planted inside. There were bright red chili peppers and small tomatoes. Ning Shu guessed that they were wild, as they were very small. There was also a grape trellis with small bunches of purple grapes. It was a farmhouse scene. Ning Shu stood at the door and shouted, "Jia." Qianjia came out of the cave and saw Ning Shu. She was a little surprised and asked with a smile, "Damn, why are you here?" Ning Shu said, "Jia, I want some salt. Ji asked me to come and get it." When Qianjia heard Ning Shu's words, her eyes flashed with pride and displeasure. She was proud that this cold female orc didn't lower herself to ask for salt from her. She was displeased because she didn't owe this orc anything. Why did she have such a dead face when she wanted something? How could these people take it for granted? Didn't it take her a lot of time to boil the salt? Qianjia was willing to give salt to these beast men, but it didn't mean that she would be so cold when asking for something from her. She would still give it to them. She didn't owe this female beastman anything. Qianjia was used to being held on a pedestal, and now she didn't like Ning Shu's attitude. Ning Shu saw that Qianjia didn't speak, so he asked, "Can't I? No more salt?" Qianjia smiled, revealing 2 dimples, and said, "Aren't you with Ji? I've already taken the salt branch back. Come back next time after you finish eating." Ning Shu frowned and stared at Qianjia. Ji had told her to come over and ask for salt from Qianjia, but Qianjia had refused. Why did Qianjia give Ji the wrong impression that she was angry and ask her to come over? Ning Shu looked at Qianjia, who was standing on the steps at the entrance of the cave. She was looking down at him condescendingly, appearing high and mighty. Ning Shu instantly understood what Qianjia meant. She just wanted to humiliate her and sow discord between her and Ji. Just think about it. Ji had asked her to come here, but Qianjia didn't intend to give her any salt. Qianjia probably had a problem with Ji. Ning Shu felt that it was strange, so he said indifferently, "Since you don't have any, then forget it. I'm leaving." Ning Shu turned around and left without hesitation. She was afraid that she wouldn't come here to ask for salt in the future. It seemed that she really had to go to the salt mine to steal salt. She didn't have any sense of belonging to this tribe. She felt that now the winged tiger tribe had become Qianjia's territory. Qianjia saw Ning Shu leave without hesitation and felt offended. She felt that this female beast man was really annoying. She called out to Ning Shu, "Fuck, wait a minute." Ning Shu turned his head and looked at her. Qian Jia suddenly didn't know what to say when Ning Shu's cold eyes stared at her. Well, we're going out of the tribe to look for something tomorrow. This time, it's full. I'll take you out next time, Qian Jia said. Now, all the female beastmen in the tribe liked to go out with her. Every time they fought for the quota, they would break their heads. Ning Shu sneered and said unceremoniously, Jia, don't you think you're making people uncomfortable? If you don't want to take me, I won't go. Why are you saying this to me? Do you want me to beg you to take me? Qian Jia looked at Ning Shu in shock. For a moment, she was tongue-tied. She obviously didn't expect him to say something so embarrassing. She stuttered, I didn't think so. Then what do you think? Ning Shu said indifferently, do you think that you're so great just because you're a goddess sent by the gods? Everyone has to flatter you. If you want to give me salt, then give me salt. If you don't want to, then forget it. You actually want me to kneel down and beg you, right? I didn't. Qian Jia was so angry that her body was trembling. Ever since she came to this world, Qian Jia had never hated anyone so much. She felt that the other party had cut open her heart. Some of her thoughts were exposed under the sun. She was embarrassed and stunned. Now, Qian Jia was glad that she came to this world. Although there were no planes, cars, computers, cell phones, or anything else in this world, she was unique. In this world, she was the only one who looked good. Here, she felt that she was needed, loved, and valued. She was no longer the ordinary girl she used to be. Here, she could casually do something that would bring her praise. Praise made people happy, so she was very dissatisfied with the attitude of this female beast man called Grass. She changed the entire tribe, but this female beast man treated her like this. Grass, I don't know what I did to offend you. I know you've never liked me. Tell me, what did I do to make you uncomfortable? Qian Jia was so angry that she was about to cry. She had never been treated like this since she came to this world. Ning Shu retorted sarcastically, what did I do to offend you? Why do you dislike me so much? Ji is an innocent female. You want to sow discord between Ji and me? Are you still a pure goddess? Won't the gods blame you for this? When did I sow discord between you and Ji? Don't slander me. Qian Jia couldn't help but raise her voice. What does it have to do with you whether I'm a goddess or not? Qian Jia clearly knew that she was not a goddess, but an ordinary person who had transmigrated from another world to this place. She was also baffled to be called a goddess, but she absolutely would not allow the other party to insult her like this. On this side, Ning Shu and Qian Jia's quarrel was very loud. Rui came out of the cave, and many beastmen gathered around. What's going on? Rui saw the angry look on his little female's face. He had never seen Qian Jia like this. Tears were rolling on her long eyelashes, and it was very distressing to see her like this. Qian Jia pursed her lips and shook her head, not saying anything. Everyone looked at Ning Shu. They looked at Ning Shu with condemnation in their eyes. Guy reached out and pulled Ning Shu, saying, stop it. Qian Jia just came to the tribe not long ago. You shouldn't quarrel with her. Ning Shu shook off Guy's hand, frowned, and said coldly, why are you pulling me? Chapter 339. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, let's get some votes for Chidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. Guy didn't expect to be thrown off by a female, and was almost slapped in the face. Guy's expression was a little ugly. He glanced at Qian Jia, who was about to cry, and said to Ning Shu in a low voice, don't make a fuss, come with me. If there's anything, we can talk about it at the side. Ning Shu glanced at him, what does it have to do with you? Ning Shu really couldn't stand Qian Jia's appearance now. She might as well shed all pretense of cordiality and cut off all contact with her. After all, she wouldn't need to rely on Qian Jia to live her life. Qian Jia was going to become a queen in the future, and whatever kind of life she had to lead had nothing to do with her. She didn't need to curry favor with Qian Jia at all. Even if she was chased out of the tribe, Ning Shu felt that she could survive. You. Guy's expression was very ugly, especially in front of Qian Jia. What's going on? Rui stared sharply at Ning Shu. Jia, what's wrong with you? If we don't clear things up today, we can only clear things up with the tribe leader and the shaman. Ning Shu pursed her lips and said, what's there to talk about, isn't it just a quarrel between females? Are you going to interfere? Ning Shu smiled at Qian Jia. A pure goddess wouldn't be so calculative with me over such a small matter, right? Qian Jia only felt that this female was too annoying. She even used the term goddess, as if she would be unworthy of the title if she was calculative. Qian Jia only felt a wave of depression rushing towards her heart. She was actually put on the spot by a primitive person. I won't be calculative. I didn't give you any salt this time because there's no more salt at home, Qian Jia said coldly. When Rui heard Qian Jia say that there was no more salt, she was stunned for a moment before continuing, yes, there's no more salt. You only know how to ask for salt, but you don't know how hard it is for Jia to boil the salt. She has to keep stirring it, and her hands are swollen. You're angry at Jia because you didn't get any salt, aren't you going too far? Rui's tiger eyes stared at Ning Shu. A powerful aura erupted from his body, making him look like he was filled with power. Ning Shu looked around and saw that the male orcs were all dissatisfied with him. He felt very bored. It was impossible to reason with these people. Qian Jia was the only one in their hearts. Qian Jia was the best, and anyone who went against her was a bad person. You know what happened. Ning Shu pointed at Qian Jia and then at himself. I know. Ning Shu turned around and left. Jia, don't be too sad. I'll go find Chao and ask him. Guy said to Qian Jia and then hurriedly chased after Ning Shu. Fuck, wait a moment. Guy stretched out his arm and pulled Ning Shu back. His tiger eyes were filled with embarrassment and displeasure. Fuck, you're making trouble with Jia and making everyone unhappy. Jia has done so much for the tribe and made everyone's lives better. Can't you just bear with it for a while? Why should he bear with it? Ning Shu rolled his eyes at Guy. Who are you? I'm very familiar with you. Get out of my way. Guy was clearly annoyed by Ning Shu's shameless behavior. Disgust flashed in his eyes, but he still said, I promised your father that I would treat you well. Treat me well. Ning Shu poked Guy's chest with her finger. She used a lot of force. Guy groaned, but he didn't dodge. Ning Shu said coldly, Kai, don't lecture me like you're doing it for my own good. My father lost his life to save you. There's no one else in my life. Now you want to step on me to please Jiao. Is this how you treat me? Do you think I'm a fool? What does it have to do with me whether she is a goddess or not? Should I kneel down and lick her toes? If you like her feet, go lick them yourself. Ning Shu withdrew her hand and wiped it on her animal skin. Disgusting. Liking someone else's partner. Ning Shu brushed past Guy. Guy's tiger eyes trembled. His bronze skin was a little pale. He froze on the spot and then chased after Ning Shu. I don't like Jia. I just admire her. She's a goddess and Rui's partner. I've never thought of liking her. Don't go around spreading rumors. Ning Shu was full of disgust for Guy. Even primitive people were so shy. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and left. Men were like this no matter what world they were in. It was simply disgusting. Especially men under the Mary Sue halo. They were even more unsightly. It was as if they had Chinibyu cancer. The female lead was everything in their lives. Just looking at her was enough to make them lose their appetite. Ning Shu pointed at Guy. Don't talk to me when you see me in the future. Otherwise, I'll announce to the whole tribe that you like Roy's partner. You're drooling like a wolf every day. Let's see how you can stay in this tribe. You. Guy's sword-like eyebrows furrowed deeply. His expression was very ugly. There was anger on his face, as well as embarrassment and anger. Fuck, how can you be such a person? Ning Shu, back in the cave, Ji was weaving a basket. Seeing that Ning Shu's hands were empty, Ji asked, didn't you take any salt? Don't mention it. I quarreled with Jia. This has nothing to do with you. You can do whatever you want. Ning Shu weighed the basket and said, Ji, weave a bigger basket. I'm going to the salt mine tonight to move salt. Ji's expression changed immediately. She quickly asked, Ji, you're going to the salt mine? Do you know where it is? The chief said that no orcs in the tribe can take salt without permission. If they find out, they'll be kicked out of the tribe. It's better to go at night. It's too dangerous. Ji, what's wrong with you? Ji looked at Ning Shu worriedly. Ning Shu took a wooden stick that was as thick as a child's fist and sharpened it on a stone. That way, it would be more lethal. Everything is for survival. I've quarreled with the goddess this time. She won't give me any salt in the future. You have to ask her for it. If we don't have enough salt, we can't store food. I'll go get some salt and we'll cook it ourselves. If I'm found out, you can say that you didn't know anything and that I did it. Ning Shu sharpened the stick in his hand. When the stick was sharpened, he mashed some herbs and smeared them on his body. Ji saw that the sky was getting dark. Just looking at it made people scared. She didn't want to let Chao take the risk. She said, Chao, don't go. It's too dangerous at night. We already have so much meat. It's enough for the two of us. If the chief finds out, we'll be punished. This amount of meat is far from enough. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Ning Shu smeared the mosquito-repellent herbs all over his body and carried the basket on his back. The shoulder strap made of old rattan was a little painful. He took the stick out of the cave. Ji watched Ning Shu's figure disappear into the darkness. It was as if he was swallowed by the darkness. Ji felt very uncomfortable. He sat in the cave and waited for Ning Shu anxiously. Chapter 340. P.S. Here's today's update. At the same time, I'm trying to get votes for Chidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. There were 3 moons in the sky, shining brightly on the world. Ning Shu shuttled through the forest with a wooden stick in his hand. Every time he passed by a place, Ning Shu would break some branches to make a mark. There were many nocturnal animals in the forest. Ning Shu encountered a bat the size of a millstone. Its entire body was black and ferocious. When it opened its fleshy wings and pounced on people, it made people feel terrified. Ning Shu held a long wooden stick and used his chi to pierce through the bat. The bat screeched sharply, and its smelly blood splattered on Ning Shu's face. It was so warm that it made people feel nauseous. However, Ning Shu's stab was like poking a hornet's nest. The bats in the surrounding trees all rushed towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu carried the wooden stick and was afraid of running away. If he was chased too tightly, he turned around and hit the bat that wanted to grab him with its claws. After killing a bat, the other bats surrounded the dead bat and seemed to be tearing its flesh. After running for a long time, Ning Shu stopped to catch his breath. His shoulder was a little sore from the rattan straps. Right now, it was only an empty basket. If he carried the salt, his shoulder would hurt even more. Ning Shu didn't know how long he had walked, but he still hadn't found the salt mine. When he found the salt mine, Ning Shu noticed that there was a towering tree not far from the mine. It was very big, and the crown of the tree was so big that it covered the sky. When he returned to the tribe, Ning Shu mainly memorized some special plants, thinking that he might come to the salt mine. Sure enough, it was better to fly in the sky. His field of vision was wider, and he could see the big uncle at a glance. Now that he was slowly touching it, he didn't know how long it would take. Looking up at the sky, the 3 moons' light had dimmed a little. It was probably dawn. At that time, it would be very dark, and he didn't know how to go back. Ning Shu was so anxious that he was sweating, but he finally found a salt mine. He put down the basket and dug the sand with his bare hands. The primitive society without tools was really miserable. At least males had powerful claws after they transformed, but now she could only use her own hands. Ning Shu circulated his qi, took a deep breath, and began to dig with all his might. By the time he reached the salt, the sky had already turned dark, and the moon had begun to set. Without the illumination of the moon, it would be much more difficult to return. Ning Shu placed a large piece of salt in the basket, carried the basket, and began to run. Her shoulder was burning with pain, and she could feel the coarse vines wrapping around her flesh. The journey back was much smoother. With the markings they made before, by the time they reached the tribe, the sky was so dark that they couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. There was a flickering fire at the entrance of the cave. Ning Shu walked into the cave. In the cave, Ji was still awake and was using a branch to stir the fire. "You're back." Ji hurriedly threw away the branch in his hand and let out a long breath. His face relaxed a little, and he reached out to take the basket from Ning Shu's back. "Gently, gently, my shoulder hurts." Ning Shu gasped in pain. After putting down the basket, Ning Shu peeled off the animal skin and saw that his shoulder was bleeding. He chewed 2 handfuls of herbs and applied it on it. Ji looked at Ning Shu and said angrily, "I asked you to get salt from Jia, but you fell out with her. Now you're suffering. Can't you just coax her? You're too dangerous." "I can't. We need a lot of salt, and we can't take it all from her. If we take too much, it will arouse suspicion. We're hiding prey now, and if we're discovered, we'll hand it over." Ning Shu smashed the salt with a stone and put it in the stone pot. Ning Shu had an idea, but it required a lot of food to survive the extremely cold winter. After a busy night, Ning Shu was very tired. He lay down on the withered grass and prepared to sleep. "You go back and rest too. We'll boil the salt tomorrow." Ji nodded and went back to the cave next door. Because Ning Shu had a falling out with Qian Jia, the next day, when Ning Shu went out to boil some salt, some beastmen looked at Ning Shu with unkind eyes. However, those unkind eyes were all male beastmen. Some female beastmen came over to ask Ning Shu what was going on. Why did he quarrel with the goddess? Ning Shu just said that it was because of Guy, and he would let Guy take the blame. Some female orcs showed a look of understanding, but they didn't dare to say too much to Ning Shu. After all, Qian Jia was not only a goddess, but she also had a lot of things in her hands. As the saying goes, if you follow the protagonist, you'll get meat. It was a biological instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Some female orcs were more concerned about Ning Shu and asked him to talk to the goddess. The goddess wouldn't care about it. There was no benefit in quarreling with the goddess. They also advised Ning Shu that Ning Shu's relationship with Guy's family was better. Guy wouldn't like it. Ning Shu smiled indifferently. Male orcs hunted to survive, but female orcs were weak and couldn't hunt to survive. They could only rely on the males. Subconsciously, they still wanted to please the males so that they could survive. Ning Shu had never thought of pleasing Guy. People who already had someone else in their heart would have a heart of stone. They wouldn't care about what others did. Instead, they would find it troublesome. To this kind of person, it was a slap in the face. Pleasing. However, Ning Shu wasn't sure if he could beat a tiger now. When he was strong enough, he would definitely learn from Wusong and beat a tiger. Facing these concerns, Ning Shu smiled bitterly and said, "Guy won't become my partner. He won't like me. He only knows how to scold me and blame me for offending the goddess." The female orcs looked at each other but didn't say anything. They just comforted Ning Shu and said that he would become Guy's partner. At the same time, they understood Ning Shu's pain of not caring about such an excellent partner. No wonder this insensible female had quarreled with the goddess. Ning Shu curled her lips. She couldn't be bothered with these trivial matters. She had a lot of things to do. She felt that the orcs now were a little greedy, especially the male orcs. In the past, the heavy responsibility of hunting was placed on them. The burden of the entire tribe's survival was placed on them. Now, because of Qian Jia, they found a lot of food, which greatly reduced their burden. Now, they were either thinking about Qian Jia or thinking about love and hate all day long. When Qian Jia called them, they would run over. Because of a lot of salt, Ning Shu didn't have to worry about hunting. In the past, when he encountered stronger prey with more meat, he didn't dare to hunt. He was afraid that there wouldn't be enough salt and the meat would go bad if he dragged it back. Now, he had no scruples. Every time Ning Shu dragged the prey back, Ji would think that the prey was dead and that Chow would pick it up just like that. Now, Ji and Ning Shu cooperated seamlessly. The ventilation of the two holes was full of bacon. Looking at the bacon, Ji was very satisfied. "I've never seen so much meat. Should we continue?" Ning Shu nodded. Of course, the more the better. There would never be enough food. Chapter 341. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, I'm trying to get more votes for Qijian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. However, with so much meat hanging in the cave, they would eventually be discovered. Ning Shu wanted to store more meat before winter came. "We have to move to another place. I found a big cave when I was hunting. Let's put the meat in the cave," Ning Shu said. "Ah, take the meat outside the tribe?" Ji asked. "We'll be discovered sooner or later. Are you willing to hand over so much meat to the tribe?" Ning Shu looked at Ji and asked. Ji's heart suddenly ached, and her face became distorted. She immediately said, "Okay." Ning Shu and Ji started to work. They put the dried bacon into a basket and prepared to send it to the big cave at night. However, Ji had never left the tribe at night. There were always rustling sounds in the forest, and the shrill sounds of strange birds, which made their hair stand on end. Ji, who was standing beside Ning Shu, was trembling. "It's okay. I'm here." Ning Shu's voice was very calm, and Ji's heart calmed down a little. Ning Shu saw that she was walking slowly, so he moved some bacon from her basket to his own basket. Ning Shu found the big cave when he was chasing a wild boar. It was very big, and there was a water source in the cave. It would be a very good shelter. Ji put down the basket, looked around, and felt that the cave was really big. Ning Shu first poked the soil with a sharp stick, then began to dig the soil with sharp stones, preparing to dig a big hole. "Damn, what are you doing?" Ji asked with some confusion. Ning Shu said while working, "Are we just going to put the meat here? There are so many animals in the forest. They will drag the meat away, cover it with big leaves, and bury it underground." "Okay." Ji quickly took a stone and dug the hole. Ning Shu smacked his lips. His fingers were full of barbs. How great would it be if female orcs could also transform? They could use their claws to dig the ground. The two of them busied themselves for a long time before they finally dug out a hole that was half the height of a person. Ning Shu covered the bottom of the hole with a large leaf and then placed the bacon on top of the leaf. "Ji, I'll go back and bring the cured meat here." "You stay here," Ning Shu said to Ji. Ji's voice trembled. "Fuck, I'm scared." "Don't be afraid, I'll be back soon." Ning Shu picked up the sharp wooden stick from the ground and stuffed it into Ji's hand. "Don't be afraid. Stay strong. I'll be back soon." Ning Shu took the 2 baskets and ran out of the cave quickly. Using his chi, he shuttled through the forest under the moonlight. After returning to the cave, he placed the cured meat in the basket and quickly returned to the cave. In the cave, Ji held the wooden stick tightly. When she saw Ning Shu, she sighed in relief and helped to place the cured meat in the hole. After going back and forth several times, Ning Shu finally moved the cured meat from the cave to the cave. The rest of the cured meat was just cured. He covered the cured meat with a large leaf and then buried it with soil. Ning Shu and Ji picked at the top of the leaf and covered it tightly. After this was done, Ning Shu's heart was finally relieved. It could be considered as the first batch of supplies. He brought Ji back to the tribe. The days passed by unhurriedly. Ning Shu was in a hurry every day. If she wasn't cultivating, she would be hunting. When the wheat planted by Qian Jia was ripe, she invited the whole tribe to eat noodles. Although they didn't know how she ground the flour, Qian Jia was omnipotent. Everyone was invited. Qian Jia seemed to have forgotten about Ning Shu. The others didn't mention it either. After all, on such a festive day, it wouldn't be good if Chow didn't know how to behave. Ji was also invited. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't go, she didn't go either. Ning Shu couldn't help but smile when he saw Ji staying by his side. He pushed her away and asked her to go to the banquet. "What's wrong with missing a meal of noodles? I'm also a modern person." Qian Jia not only made noodles, but also steamed buns. Although it was a little boring, it was enough to amaze these primitive people. After the meal, the chieftain announced that they would start to plant wheat. Then, tigers were digging in every place in the tribe. Many female orcs began to sow the seeds under Qian Jia's guidance. The whole tribe was in full swing, but it had little to do with Ning Shu. It was probably because of the rumors in the tribe. People in the tribe said that Guy was going to abandon Chow and didn't want to be her partner. Guy came to Ning Shu and asked him to help open up the land for Ning Shu and let her plant some food. Ning Shu refused with a straight face. Guy frowned and said with an unhappy expression, "You can also have a special harvest by planting some wheat. Do you want to wait for a little prey every day? How are you going to survive the winter? How I survive is none of your business." Ning Shu didn't want to talk to Guy. Guy was originally kind, but he was very unhappy with Ning Shu's attitude, especially when he saw that she was so lazy. Compared to Qian Jia, Guy was even more dissatisfied with this future partner of his. He was very annoyed. Thinking of becoming Chow's partner, Guy's heart turned cold. Ji also got some seeds and asked Ning Shu if he wanted to plant them. Ning Shu shook his head and let her do it herself. Ning Shu looked up and saw that there were already 5 moons in the sky. Winter was not far away. So he sped up his hunting speed. In a few days, he would go to the salt mine to steal salt. Ning Shu's strength was getting stronger and stronger, but he didn't dare to relax at all. With a little more strength, he could save one more abandoned person. Qian Jia also made pottery pots. She made clay pots by kneading mud into the shape of pots and burning them at a high temperature. Qian Jia failed several times and finally succeeded once. After that, her success rate became higher and higher. The corner of Ning Shu's mouth twitched. Why was everything always so simple in her hands? How could making pottery pots be so simple? Qian Jia's pottery pots caused a huge response in the tribe. It was really convenient to have a pottery pot. It could be used to make bowls and vessels to hold water. However, this technology was exclusive. Qian Jia told everyone her method, but the female orcs were not as successful as Qian Jia. Occasionally, there were two who succeeded. Ji also got a pottery pot. When Ji went to ask Qian Jia for salt, Qian Jia generously gave her a pottery pot to hold salt. Although there was enough salt now, Ning Shu still asked Ji to ask for salt from Qian Jia. Ji liked the pottery pot very much and showed it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't take it to heart. He had seen porcelain pots that were many times more exquisite than this one. This thing was really not that attractive. Qian Jia knows a lot. First, she discovered the salt mine, then she planted wheat. She knows a lot. She is really a goddess sent by God. Ji praised Qian Jia. After all, these things were true. The entire tribe had undergone earth-shattering changes, changing with each passing day. Ning Shu nodded. The goddess is naturally different from us. Standing on the shoulders of giants, Qian Jia naturally saw further. What she knew was accumulated from generations of predecessors. Chapter 342. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, I'm trying to get more votes for the 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. Ning Shu and Ji had stored a lot of meat. Seeing that there was a lot of cured meat, Ning Shu slowed down his hunting speed and started to grow herbs. In winter, the whole world would be covered with ice and snow. At that time, it would be impossible to find herbs, not even a single weed. He tied up the dried herbs and wrapped them in animal skin. Not long after the pot became hot, Qian Jia started to build a house again. She couldn't stand the humidity in the cave, and the air was not circulating. Qian Jia complained to Rui that people in her hometown lived in houses, and living in a cave would make her a caveman. Although Rui didn't know what a caveman was, he remembered it and said that he wanted to build a house for Qian Jia. Qian Jia was suddenly interested and decided to build a house. She had wanted to live in a cave for a long time, and there were a lot of insects. Qian Jia also knew that this place was made of bricks, so she asked people to collect stones to replace the bricks. Then the whole tribe became busy, looking for stones everywhere. There were all kinds of stones. Qian Jia liked the granite that Guy found because it was very hard. Without cement, she used mud. Qian Jia was very smart and used the mud from the fish pond in the river. This kind of mud had a high viscosity and could replace cement. Under Qian Jia's command, a very simple house was built with a thatched roof. Although it was just a simple house with a door, a window, and a Kong in the room, Qian Jia was very excited and rolled around on the Kong. When the chief saw this, he immediately asked his son to build a house like this for him. Houses became a new thing in the tribe. They had always lived in caves, and they didn't expect to live in a place like this. Even Ji went to look at the houses every day. Gradually, there were more and more houses in the tribe. Seeing such houses, people didn't want to live in caves anymore. Ji was very envious. Ning Shu asked, "Damn, should we also build a house?" Boring. Winter is coming soon, and the thatch won't be able to support the weight of the snow. All the snow will crash into the house, Ning Shu said indifferently. Ji didn't say anything, but she didn't say anything about building a house either. Ning Shu told Ji that if the cave was really humid, she could sprinkle burned charcoal or dried grass ashes on the ground. It should be able to absorb moisture. Ning Shu would scatter the ashes in the room every time. Ning Shu felt that the weather was getting colder. When he rested at night, he had to cover himself with animal skins. Winter was coming. The shaman called Ning Shu in front of him and asked Ning Shu if he had a communication stone. Ning Shu had long forgotten about this matter. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and said, "I have no way to communicate with the divine stone." Disappointment flashed through the shaman's eyes. "It seems that God didn't choose you." "Shaman, Did God tell you that Qianjia is a goddess? Ning Shu had always been curious about why the shamaness thought that Qianjia was a goddess. The shamaness' eyes were a little fascinated. Look at her clothes. Only God can wear such clothes. Did I see God wearing such clothes? Huh. Ning Shu was even more confused. Did the shamaness really see what the black shadow looked like? What she saw was really a shadow. It was pitch black and she didn't see anything. Did they see the same thing? You should go to the trade fair this time. It's good to go out and see the world. Communicate with the divine stone. If you are determined to become a shamaness, you will naturally be able to communicate with the divine stone, Ning Shu said. Then the shamaness coughed. Ning Shu saw that the shamaness seemed to have bronchitis and asked, "What's wrong, shamaness?" "It's an old problem. It's cold." The shamaness waved her hand and said, "Soon, I will probably go to God and become his servant." Ning Shu was speechless. So now the shamaness was anxious to find the next successor. Ning Shu came back from the shamaness and thought about the trade fair. There was always a trade fair before winter. This trade fair traded things that every tribe needed to survive the winter. When Ji heard that Ning Shu could go to the trade fair, she was very envious. There were a lot of things at the trade fair and she could meet the orcs of various tribes. Ning Shu didn't care very much. However, Ning Shu didn't expect that a few days later, her name would be removed and replaced by Ji. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. Then he heard that Qianjia would also go this time. The female orcs were led by Qianjia. It should be that Qianjia didn't want to take him. Now, Qianjia could do anything she wanted. Ning Shu was removed from the list, so the shamaness couldn't say anything. She just coughed harder and frowned when she looked at Qianjia. The shamaness sighed and said to Ning Shu, "She is a goddess, but I don't know if God sent her to help the orcs or to destroy them. I only hope that God can pity our tribe." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. "You think too much." Of course, as the troublesome female supporting character, Ning Shu went to quarrel with Qianjia again. She demanded an explanation from Qianjia on why she had been kicked out of the competition. She said all kinds of things to put Qianjia on the spot. Before Qianjia could say anything, the surrounding beast men were already speaking up for Qianjia. Everyone ignored Ning Shu, who had been kicked out of the team. Instead, they comforted Qianjia, who was angered by Ning Shu, while condemning Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at these orc support for Qianjia. He could see that Qianjia's reputation in the Winged Tiger tribe was very high. Those who stood up for Qianjia were all male orcs. The female orcs basically didn't talk much. Perhaps the female orcs were dissatisfied with the goddess who attracted all the male orcs' attention, but they couldn't say it out loud. Ning Shu and Qianjia had a conflict. Many female orcs chose not to help either side. Some even left the scene directly. Ning Shu saw that there was no point in making a scene, so he turned and left. Guy chased after Ning Shu. Ning Shu saw his angry face and guessed that he wanted to teach him a lesson. Without another word, Ning Shu kicked Guy's calf. With Guy's strength, he could naturally dodge it, but Guy didn't expect a female to attack him. He took the kick directly, and it was excruciatingly painful. "I said, I don't want to talk to you. Don't teach me a lesson." Ning Shu turned and left. However, the original owner's father died in order to save Guy. A child without parents was like a blade of grass. If the original owner's father was still alive, would Guy dare to bully her like this? Ji, who got the name, said to Ning Shu uneasily, "I don't know how it became me." Ning Shu smiled at her. "It's good to go out and have a look. You know that she doesn't like me. She'll hate me even if we go out." This time, the Winged Tiger tribe was very much looking forward to it. There were too many good things in their tribe. Clay pots, seeds, various vegetables, and spices. It would definitely shock the other tribes. They felt proud. The winged tiger tribe also had good things. Chapter 343. P.S. Here is today's update, and at the same time, I'm trying to get more votes for the 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. When Ji was about to go to the trade fair, Ning Shu went to send her off. Ji brought a lot of things with her, thinking that she could trade something good at the trade fair. When they arrived at the ritual square, Ning Shu and Qian Jia looked at each other. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and ignored her. Ning Shu was excited and scared at the same time. He said to Ji, "If you need anything, go to the leader of the orcs. He's old and experienced. Relying on these young male orcs." Haha. Ji nodded. Ning Shu said, "Hey, what do you want? I'll bring it for you." "No need." Ning Shu gave Ji a bag of poison and said, "If you're in danger, sprinkle this. Don't smell it yourself." Ji put away the unknown powder and nodded. Qian Jia saw Ning Shu rolling his eyes at her and ignoring her. Ning Shu and Ji walked over. "Hey!" Qian Jia and Ning Shu shouted. Ning Shu raised his eyes and said, "What? Do you want to quarrel? You know I don't like you now, but you still want to get close to me. You did it on purpose. You deliberately let these male orcs attack me, didn't you?" "Goddess, I was wrong. I won't quarrel with you anymore." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Don't let these male orcs attack me. I know all the male orcs here like you. If you lose a hair, these men will kill me." "Hey!" Ji pulled Ning Shu. Qian Jia's face turned red, and she said angrily, "You're so annoying. I want to talk to you about the quota. You're young and have a bad temper. This is the first time a female orc in the tribe will participate in the trade fair. Let Ji go. That's enough. It's one thing for you to remove me from the list, but now you're accusing me of being immature and bad-tempered. Goddess, you're a mighty and noble goddess, an emissary sent by God. How could you do such a thing?" Ning Shu's tone was sarcastic. She had tricked others, and now she wanted others to treat her as a good person. Did she think others were stupid? She was trying to sow discord between her and Ji. Qian Jia didn't know how to communicate with this female orc. She was so annoying. "Hey, don't make things unpleasant." Guy saw Qian Jia and Rui's expressions, and Ning Shu quickly. Ning Shu spat at Guy rudely. "When did I make things difficult? I didn't even want to talk to her, but she came to talk to me and removed my quota. Do I have to kneel down and thank her? Don't talk to me. I don't want to see you. My father must be blind to save someone like you." Ning Shu's face was full of disdain. Guy's face darkened instantly. He didn't know that his future partner was such a person. Guy wiped his face. Being said like that in front of Qian Jia, especially by his future partner, made him feel like a beast was gnawing at his heart. He was embarrassed, resentful, and a little afraid that Qian Jia would look down on him. Since the relationship between Chao and Qian was so bad now, if he really became Chao's partner, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to interact with Rui's family anymore. Chao was an immature female orc. She could embarrass people by throwing a tantrum. "Hey, can't you talk nicely? Can't you see that Jia is explaining to you?" Guy said helplessly. Ning Shu was speechless. Damn, was this even an explanation? She said this before they left. Was she trying to poke at his heart? "Kai, I'm telling you one last time, if you ever talk to me again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Do you believe that I know you like this goddess? If you like her, then so be it. Why do you have to target me? What right do you have to make demands of me? Not only do you have no right to make demands of me, you even owe my father his life. My father died because of you, Kai, you're such a person. You don't want to be my partner, but do you think I want to be your partner? You're a disgusting orc who keeps staring at other people's partners. Ning Shu hated Guy very much. He kept asking her. What right did he have? He didn't have any right at all. Guy clenched his fists tightly. His face was distorted. He unconsciously took 2 steps towards Ning Shu. It looked like he was going to hit Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised her chin slightly and looked at Guy coldly. It was best to fight. She wanted to test her strength. She had long wanted to learn from Wusong and fight a tiger. All right, stop quarreling. I'm in the wrong here. Xian Jia reached out her hand and placed it on Guy's chest. She sighed and said to Ning Shu, let's talk about this after the trade fair. Ning Shu curled his lips and looked at Xian Jia with his arms crossed. Are you really a goddess? Huh? Xian Jia looked at Ning Shu in confusion. Ning Shu said calmly, the shamans in the tribe don't have partners in order to maintain their purity. However, the messenger sent by the god is playing with the male orcs. She has the male orc in a daze. Now, her hand is still on Guy's chest. Tsk, tisk, Xian Jia turned around and quickly retracted her hand. Damn, I was afraid that you would fight. That's why I stopped Guy. There are so many people here. Do you need a female orc with a partner to stop them? Are all the other orcs dead? Ning Shu's expression was indescribably sarcastic. Xian Jia saw that the orcs around her were looking at her with judging eyes. She was so angry that tears were rolling down her face. Aren't you just holding a grudge against me for removing your spot? How can you slander me like this? Xian Jia threw herself into Rui's arms and cried. Rui comforted Xian Jia and said coldly to Ning Shu, if you continue to cause trouble, I can only kick you out of the tribe. Ning Shu patted his chest. I'm so scared. Kick me out of the tribe. It's good that I don't have to see you disgusting people. The goddess is everyone's goddess. Maybe the goddess has more than one partner. Maybe you'll be lucky. Ning Shu pointed at the male orcs. He really wanted to kill these men. Men were really disgusting. Enough. What do you want? Xian Jia, who was buried in Rui's arms, turned around and looked at Ning Shu. Her face was tear-stained, and she looked fresh and charming. She said sarcastically, damn, you're slandering me like this because you think I stole your partner. Don't worry, I won't have anything to do with your guy in this life. Guy's face darkened when he heard this. However, he still had to blame Chow Chow for being so unreasonable. Ning Shu covered his mouth and giggled like an old hen that had just laid eggs. He gloated at Guy's misfortune. See, she doesn't want you in this life. You can't be one of her partners. Right, you have to keep your promise. You're a goddess. If you break your promise, you'll be punished by the gods. Ning Shu said to Xian Jia while giggling. The entire ritual square was filled with Ning Shu's unpleasant laughter. Chapter 344. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, I'm trying to get votes for Chidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. A goddess should act like a goddess. You can't have anything to do with Guy in this lifetime. Ning Shu said to Qian Jia again. Then, he said to the shaman who was covered in feathers, Shaman, do you think I'm right? Cough cough cough. The shaman coughed as if she was going to cough her lungs out. She didn't answer Ning Shu's words. Qian Jia's face was cold, and she looked very noble and cold. She looked at Ning Shu with disdain and indifference. Isn't it just because Guy doesn't like you? Do you think Guy will like you just because you're against me? You're just tying him to your side. You can tie him to you, but you can't tie his heart. Oh, he, who Guy likes has nothing to do with me. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and walked in front of the shaman. Shaman, I don't want to be Guy's partner. You see, he only knows how to bully me and pick on me. He's not satisfied with anything I do. Cough cough cough. The shaman coughed twice and spat a mouthful of phlegm to the side. Ning Shu was speechless. This old woman just doesn't want to offend the goddess. Fuck, what do you want? When are you going to stop? Guy's expression had an uncontrollable rage. First, he was rejected by the person he liked, and now, he was humiliated by the grass. She said in front of the shaman that she didn't want to be his partner. Did he want to be Grass's partner? Having such a partner was simply a disaster. However, in front of so many beast men, he was abandoned by such an annoying female beast man. This made Guy feel extremely humiliated. He didn't even dare to look at the beastman's eyes. The thing he didn't dare to look at the most was Qian Jia's eyes. Guy was extremely disgusted by the annoying grass. He walked over and wanted to grab Ning Shu. Ning Shu took a step back and looked at Guy coldly. You want to fight? The veins on Guy's forehead bulged. There seemed to be a beast roaring in his heart, wanting to break out of his prison. He only had one thought in his mind. Killing this vicious female was a way to vent the pain of being rejected. Guy instantly transformed into a tiger with wings. He opened his mouth and roared at Ning Shu. He flapped his wings and raised his huge claws to slap Ning Shu's head. You want to fight? Ning Shu sneered. He clenched his fist and channeled his dantian to meet Guy's claw. The surrounding people saw a female orc actually using her fist to block the claws of a male. She was simply courting death. Many male beastmen transformed and tried to stop the enraged Guy. A female beastman could hardly resist the power of a transformed male beastman. The female orc's face turned even paler. Ning Shu shouted, "Fuck, get out of the way." Seeing this scene, Qian Jia's eyes flashed, but she didn't say anything. This female beastman had asked for it, and she couldn't blame anyone. She was so vicious that even her future partner wanted to kill her. Ning Shu's eyes met Guy's cold tiger eyes. He channeled all the power in his body and directly punched Guy's claw. The moment the claw and fist collided, everyone heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. Under everyone's shocked gazes, Guy fell heavily to the ground. All the beastmen's jaws dropped. They stared blankly at the thin female orc jumping onto Guy's back and punching him. Guy felt that the fists were like huge rocks hitting his body. It was very painful. The worst thing was that he, a transformed male beastman, was actually beaten down by a female. Guy flapped his wings and tried to throw the person on his back off. Ning Shu sneered. This time, I must beat you up so that you won't dare to talk to me in a condescending manner. I'll make you take a detour when you see me in the future. If he wanted to please Qian Jia, he had to see if he had the ability. Ning Shu grabbed Guy's wings and concentrated her chi into her dantian. Then, she swung Guy like a whip. Every time Guy smashed into the ground, everyone felt the ground tremble. Male beastman, female beastman, witch, Ning Shu finally slammed Guy to the ground, let go of his wings, and patted his hands. His whole body was free. Cool, really cool. Guy turned into a human. His arms were soft, obviously broken. His face and body were purple and blue, and his face was swollen. He looked terrible. Fuck. Ji looked at Ning Shu in a daze. Ning Shu smiled at Ji, then said to the stunned witch, I communicated with the god stone. This is the power that God gave me. Witch, good, good. It seems that God really likes you and gave you such power. Good. Witch's face was full of smiles. Since you are the witch chosen by God, you and Guy will naturally not be partners. Witch believed Ning Shu's words without hesitation. Ning Shu's power was beyond her imagination. Besides, no female beastman had such power. It could only be explained by God. Guy was supported by the male beast-man, and his expression was gloomy. Qian Jia looked at Ning Shu, who was showing off his female power, and felt very uncomfortable. She said, God gave you such power, but you use it to bully others. Why would God like a witch like you? Ning Shu tilted his head and smiled at Qian Jia. His smile was indifferent. He said lightly, should I be killed by Guy? God gave the male beastman such power so that he could show off in front of the female beastman and kill the unarmed and powerless female beastman. Before he killed me, wouldn't Guy know that I'm a female? If God didn't give me this power and I was killed by Guy, would you blame Guy? Ning Shu looked at Qian Jia with cold eyes, and even disgust. It was not easy for women to survive, but they had to bear the malice of other women. If one day Roy wants to kill you, according to what you said, you should obediently let him kill you. Goddess, you are also a female beastman. You should think from the perspective of a female beastman. Females have no power and are weak, but is that a reason for a male beastman to bully us? You are a goddess. Many people like you. Many people would do anything for you. What reason do you have to blame me? Ning Shu took a step towards Qian Jia. Qian Jia stepped back in fear and bumped into Roy's arms. Qian Jia's face was pale, but she could not find any words to refute Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled again. Actually, goddess, you want to step on me to gain the favor of the injured guy. I don't. Qian Jia refuted loudly. Ning Shu laughed. He clenched his fist and blew on it. He looked around at the male beastmen. The male beastmen who met Ning Shu's gaze all looked away. Roy felt that something was wrong. In the past, the tribe was united, but now the tribe was facing a crisis. Roy clearly felt that the tribe might fall apart. He would be the future junior patriarch of the tribe, so he must eliminate this crisis. The female beastman Grass would be the next shaman of the tribe, but now Grass and his partner were like fire and water. It was a kind of harm to the entire tribe. Chapter 345. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, here's a vote for Chidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and the votes are free coins. Roy hugged Qian Jia, who was trembling with anger. Her face was pale, and he noticed that the female beast men around them were looking at Qian Jia unkindly. Roy couldn't understand how such a small matter could cause such a big stir, but Roy didn't want Qian Jia to be sad. Shaman, I don't agree with Chow Chow becoming the next shaman, Roy said to the shaman. The shaman coughed twice and didn't say anything. Ning Shu smiled at Roy and asked, why? I'm the shaman chosen by God. Do you want to deny God? I don't want to deny God, but you really aren't the best candidate for the shaman, Roy pursed his lips and said. The shaman said, Chow Chow was chosen by God, and God gave Chow Chow power that doesn't lose to the male beast men. Chow Chow must be a shaman, or she will go against God's will. But, she. Roy was speechless. Chow Chow did have power. It was the first time in the entire tribe that a female had power. But she doesn't have a good relationship with Goddess. Goddess is a messenger sent by God. Chow Chow shouldn't hate Jia so much, Roy said. Everyone in the tribe knew that Chow Chow and Jia didn't have a good relationship. Ning Shu covered his mouth again and chuckled like an old hen. He pointed at Qian Jia and said, are you sure she's a goddess? A goddess is pure. Is she pure? Roy frowned and said calmly, how is Jia not a goddess? How much has Jia done for the winged tiger tribe? How much has she contributed? How much has she sacrificed? She is a goddess. Ning Shu shrugged. She knows whether she's a goddess or not. Goddess, tell everyone, why did God send you here? Qian Jia panicked and said, of course it's to change the primitive society. Ning Shu said, you change your primitive society, and I'll be my shaman. Is there a conflict? Of course there was a conflict. Xian Jia didn't expect this female beast man to become the next shaman. Witches have a noble status in the tribe. Chica can tolerate others becoming witches, but she can't tolerate this grass who always goes against her. Goddess is an emissary sent down by the gods. Fuck, you're a shaman from now on. You're not allowed to cause trouble. The shaman said sternly. Both of them were chosen by God. Rui, don't even think about changing people. The others might not be able to communicate with the divine stone. The shaman said. Rui frowned and said nothing. What are you doing? Aren't you going to the trade fair? Why are you still here? What are you making a fuss about? The chief of the clan came over. If there's anything, wait until we're back from the trade fair. Rui hummed in agreement. The male orcs turned into tigers, and the female orcs sat on their backs. After a while, they could no longer be seen. Ning Shu thought that with his poison, Ji should be relatively safe. The chief glanced at the injured guy, then looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Did you really communicate with God?" "Of course," Ning Shu said indifferently. The chief laughed and asked, "How did you communicate with God?" "God actually gave you power." Ning Shu heard the chief's doubt. The chief was biased towards his daughter-in-law, but he could understand. Chica was his son's partner, and she had made so many contributions to the tribe. She was just an ordinary female orc, and she didn't contribute to the tribe. Even if she had the power given by God, it was not enough to replace the benefits brought by Chica. It was normal to be biased. I saw God come to this desolate world. The first thing that appeared in the world was the sun, then the forest, and the first orc was a lion. It was God who gave the orcs the ability to transform. The chief smiled. Everyone knows about these things. Ning Shu's face darkened. Obviously, the chief also knew about the grudge between her and Qian Jia. She was now the next successor of the shaman and had a noble status. Qian Jia could bring great benefits to the tribe and also had a noble status. If these two fought, it would not be good for the tribe's development. In order to ensure the tribe's stable development, the chief gave up on her. The shaman frowned. He wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Ning Shu also smiled like the chief. Although God gave me power, it doesn't mean that the shaman is me. Throughout history, the shaman didn't have power. Ning Shu didn't care about this shaman at all. In the face of disaster, everything was like floating clouds. Whether or not he could survive was a problem. That's right. The chief smiled with satisfaction and said to the shaman, "Let the other female orcs communicate with the god stone." After the chief finished speaking, he turned and left. With one sentence, he took away Ning Shu's right to be the next shaman. "I believe that you have communicated with the god stone, but the tribe now is different from the tribe before." The shaman coughed and then sighed. He looked a lot more haggard. People were greedy. The more they got, the more they wanted to have. Chica was an endless treasure trove. They were used to a relaxed life and didn't want to go back to the hard life of hunting. At least, the winged tiger tribe couldn't go back to the past. Ning Shu returned to his cave, turned over the bacon, and sat on the withered grass to practice. Time was running out. Ning Shu felt that the weather was getting colder. There were already 7 moons in the sky. Winter would come soon, and there was also the earthquake. To Ning Shu's surprise, the orcs who went to the trade fair came back on the 3rd day. The atmosphere of the returning team was anxious and sad. Rui, who was the leader, was very irritable. As soon as he came back, he went straight to his father. Ning Shu saw that Ji came back safely and was relieved. He asked, "Why are you back so soon?" The trade fair had been held for more than 10 days, and the orcs of the winged tiger tribe had come back in only 3 days. Something must have happened. Chica wasn't in the returning team. Ji pulled Ning Shu back to the cave, and then Ning Shu said, Chica was kidnapped by the orcs of the Black Snake tribe. Roy came back to ask people to save her. Oh. Ning Shu said very calmly. Ji said, I'm afraid Chica might be in danger this time. What danger can there be? Ning Shu raised her eyebrows. She was changing the map and getting to know a handsome man all over again. What danger could there be? Ji said, how can it not be dangerous? I heard from others that the male orcs of the Black Snake tribe are the most powerful and have the least number of female orcs in the tribe. They often go to other tribes to kidnap females. The female orcs of the Black Snake tribe don't live long because the male orcs of the Black Snake tribe are too powerful. They like to do that kind of thing so much that the females can't bear it. Oh. Ning Shu replied indifferently. To Qian Jia, this was not a big deal. Snakes were lustful by nature, and Ning Shu heard that snakes had 2 dicks. With such a powerful ability, she was definitely a good choice for a harem. As soon as they heard that the goddess had been kidnapped by the Black Snake tribe, the entire Winged Tiger tribe went into an uproar. The benefits brought by the goddess were real. Without the goddess, they would be back to square one. Some things could only be done by the goddess. Chapter 346. P.S. Here's today's update, and at the same time, I'm trying to get more votes for Chidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. The male orcs in the tribe went in and out every day, and when they came back, they had some wounds on their bodies. Obviously, they went to the Black Snake tribe to ask for Qian Ji, but the Black Snake tribe did not let her go. The 2 sides fought. It was Guy, who was injured by Ning Shu before. He ignored the wounds on his body and fought with the Black Snake tribe's orcs. He was almost on par with Roy. Those who did not know would think that Qian Jia was his partner. Ning Shu did not care about it. Perhaps when these male orcs were fighting with their lives, Qian Jia was having fun. Ji was a little worried, and the whole tribe was in a state of panic, so it was inevitable that it would affect Ji. Ning Shu despised him in her heart. This was what it meant to run before learning how to crawl. Clearly, he had not developed to that stage and had not developed himself. He had placed all his hopes on Qian Jia. Without Qian Jia, everything was numb. Damn, do you think she will be okay? Ji asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu said indifferently, she is a goddess. Wherever she goes, she will be worshipped. What can happen? The whole tribe was in a mess. Every time Ning Shu swaggered out of the tribe with Ji, no one cared about them. They went hunting with Ji and swaggered back with their prey. Even if they saw them, no one cared about them. Haha. Ning Shu took Ji out to pick herbs and told her the medicinal effects of the herbs in detail, so that she could learn from them. Ji did not expect that these ordinary weeds would have such an effect. She learned very seriously, and many times she could not remember, so she had to ask Ning Shu to repeat it twice. Ning Shu also taught her patiently. This method reminded Ning Shu of the miracle doctor who had a heart disease. He did not know how the miracle doctor was now, but with the little radish by his side, he should not be so lonely. There were too many injured male orcs in the tribe. The shamaness was already old, and when the weather turned cold, she coughed. She was too busy to ask Ning Shu for help. Ning Shu brought Twig to the shaman's cave. He saw many injured orcs at the entrance of the cave. They were either sitting or sleeping. They all had wounds on their bodies. Some of the orcs even had black faces. They looked like they had been poisoned. Was he bitten by a poisonous snake? The shamaness coughed and looked a little thinner. When she saw Ning Shu, she quickly said, "Go and take a look at them. I need to rest." Ning Shu looked at these beast men. Some of the feathers on their wings had been pulled off, and they were dripping with blood. Some of them were swollen and purple. Ning Shu asked Ji to treat the injured orcs. Ji was very nervous. Ning Shu said, "What kind of medicine can stop bleeding and heal?" "Just crush it and apply it to the wound." "Was he bitten by something?" "Where is the wound?" Ning Shu asked an orc who was purple all over. When the male orc saw Ning Shu, he tilted his head and didn't speak. Obviously, he didn't believe Ning Shu. Ning Shu turned around and went to check on the next person. She saw 2 small holes on his calf, which should have been bitten by a snake. Ning Shu knew from the shaman that the black snake tribe raised all kinds of poisonous snakes. Ning Shu cut the skin with a sharpened stone. Then, black and smelly blood flowed out. Ning Shu squeezed the wound with his hand. When the blood turned red, he stuffed a handful of herbs into his mouth, chewed them, and applied them to the wound. As for whether it could be detoxified, it depended on the heavens. This was the best she could do. The shamaness asked curiously, "How did you think of this?" "We female orcs have to bleed every month. It's dirty." "It's the same if you're bitten by a snake," Ning Shu said with a smile. The shamaness was speechless. However, the shamaness thought it was a good idea, so she helped. It seemed to be effective. Perhaps it had something to do with the orcs' strong physique. They recovered quickly, but these orcs couldn't fight. There weren't many orcs in the winged tiger tribe who could fight. Ning Shu looked up at the sky. So this was the definition of a femme fatale. After working for a while, he finally treated the wounds of the wounded. Ji followed Ning Shu and said, "Damn, you're so good. You can be so good too. You memorized all these herbs." Ning Shu walked in the tribe. At a glance, the wheat seemed to be ripening. However, the orcs didn't pay attention to the wheat. They were eager to get the goddess back. Ji was very interested in herbs and always pestered Ning Shu with all kinds of questions. Ning Shu patiently explained that if he left this world, Ji had a skill that could let him live well with the original owner. There were no words in this world. Ning Shu couldn't even record some knowledge of herbs. He could only rely on Ji to memorize. After the bacon was dried, Ning Shu and Ji put it in the big cave. When there were 8 moons in the sky, Qian Jia still hadn't come back. The wheat was already ripe. Only some female orcs were harvesting the wheat, but the male orcs were crazy. How could they be compared to the goddess when it came to harvesting grain? Ning Shu and Ji both helped to harvest the wheat. Some female orcs gave Ning Shu some wheat. Ning Shu didn't hesitate to dry it and put it away. The weather was cold. Even after being transformed by Qi, Ning Shu felt very cold. The cold wind blew into his bones. Ji was wrapped in a lot of animal skins. When she slept, she hugged Ning Shu. Ji liked hugging Ning Shu when she slept. It felt like hugging a big fireball with endless heat. Ning Shu couldn't sleep well. Things were getting more and more out of control. The chief also came forward to negotiate with the Black Snake tribe. Before the first heavy snowfall, Qian Jia returned to the Winged Tiger tribe, but there was a man with her. This man had long black hair and delicate facial features, but overall, he gave people a feminine feeling. He had a pair of snake-like vertical pupils. When he looked at people, there was a kind of gloomy coldness, as if he was being stared at by a poisonous snake. In the spirit of seeking the truth through science, Ning Shu really wanted to lift up the leather skirt of this black snake race man to see if he had grown 2 dicks. Ning Shu saw that Qian Jia's face was ruddy and she was wearing animal skins. She didn't look like she had suffered at all. Obviously, she was living well in the Black Snake tribe. However, her partner, Roy, and the other male orcs who liked Qian Jia were very anxious. Ning Shu felt that Qian Jia and this Black Snake tribe man should be husband and wife. Qian Jia slept in Roy's cave every day and was jealous of Roy every day. Roy knew that his partner had a relationship with this male orc. His heart was bitter. Sure enough, the thing he feared had happened. The beautiful and capable goddess was not someone he could monopolize. Moreover, Qian Jia said that she was forced. How could Qian Jia resist a male orc with her strength? As long as she came back, as long as she was by his side, his heart was incomparably stable. Rui had developed a kind of dependence on Qian Jia that he didn't even notice. When Ning Shu learned that Rui had decided to share Qian Jia with the Black Snake Tribe man, the corner of his mouth twitched. Chapter 347. P.S. Here's today's update. At the same time, I'm trying to get votes for Qidian's 515 Fan Festival. Everyone has 8 votes, and you can even get some coins for voting. The goddess had 2 partners, which caused some commotion in the Winged Tiger tribe. A female actually had 2 partners. The Winged Tiger tribe found it hard to accept. At the same time, they were a little restless. Many male beast men had expectations in their eyes. Obviously, they wanted to join this big harem family, especially Guy. Since Qian Jia returned to the Winged Tiger tribe, he had been very attentive to her. Obviously, he saw hope. Ning Shu just sneered at this. While Ji was sorting out the herbs, she said to Ning Shu, "It's a mess." "Damn, I don't feel good." Ning Shu said lightly, "You'll get used to it." "Ji, damn, you said that the goddess would have more than one partner. How did you know?" Ji asked casually. "Isn't the goddess beautiful?" "Yes. That's it. Good things should be shared, right?" Ning Shu said lightly. "Ji, besides, she's the goddess. What's wrong with having more partners?" Ji scratched her head. "I feel like something is broken. It's a very bad feeling." It was hard to accept that the inherent rules were broken. Now, Ji just couldn't accept that a female could have more than one male. Such a thing had never happened before. Ning Shu shrugged. However, this beast man from the Black Snake tribe was very unfriendly, especially to Ning Shu. Sometimes, when they met in the tribe, the beast man from the Black Snake tribe would stare at Ning Shu with a pair of sinister eyes. It was very scary. Ji hid behind Ning Shu in fear. The beast man from the Black Snake tribe looked at Ning Shu, stuck out his sharp tongue, and licked his lips. He said, "You're the female who bullied my goddess." She guessed that Qian Jia must have told this man about the grudges between them. Ning Shu stared at the man's lower body. He was very curious. Did he really have 2 genitals? Ji tugged at Ning Shu's animal skin. Only then did Ning Shu realize what was going on. He was suddenly curious about whether they were in their animal form or human form when they were doing that. For example, felines had barbs on their genitals. If the men of the Winged Tiger race were in their beast form, they should have barbs on their genitals as well. If it was a 3P, would Chica be able to take it? Just the thought of it was enough to make one's nose bleed. The man from the Black Snake tribe saw that the female was looking at him strangely, so he immediately released a poisonous snake. The poisonous snake shot towards Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu grabbed the venomous snake and tore it into 2 halves with all her strength. The Black Snake Beastman saw that Ning Shu had captured his pet so easily and even killed the pet he had carefully raised. "You deserve to die." The man from the Black Snake tribe opened and closed his eyes. Ning Shu stretched out his foot and crushed the snake's body, turning it into minced meat. "Come and kill me if you can." The man from the Black Snake tribe was stunned. He obviously didn't expect that there would be such a stupid female who dared to provoke a male beastman. The man from the Black Snake tribe really wanted to turn into a snake and coil around her to death. "Goo, it's time to eat." Chica walked over. When she saw Ning Shu, her expression was indifferent. She didn't say a word and walked away with the Black Snake tribe beastman's arm. Whenever Qian Jia faced Ning Shu, she would always feel a sense of guilt. This was because Ning Shu had previously said that she would have many partners. She had thought that it was slander, but now there was one more go, which made her words true. Chica felt guilty and hated Ning Shu. It feels so strange. She looked at the two people in front of her. Ning Shu shrugged and laughed. There were already 9 moons in the sky, and the weather was so cold that it could freeze people. It had been snowing non-stop. The snow was very heavy. Ning Shu had never seen such heavy snow. The snow was as heavy as goose feathers. Ning Shu had to clear the snow at the entrance of the cave every day. Otherwise, the snow would block the entrance after a long time. The house built in the tribe had been crushed by the snow, so Chica moved to the cave to live. What Ning Shu didn't expect was that the title of Goddess Chica would attract the males of many tribes, such as the charming and affectionate beastmen of the Green Fox tribe. The dragon tribe was even faster. Although they looked like Western lizard dragons, they were still dragons. There were also the honest ox tribe beastmen and the violent brown bear tribe beastmen. Ning Shu's eyebrows twitched. The female lead's harem swarmed over, and every one of them was the young chief of the tribe. They would become the leader of the tribe in the future. Ning Shu gnawed on a piece of boiled cured meat as she watched the male beastmen surrounding Qian Jia and fawning over her. There were all kinds of men. Some were charming, some were domineering, some were masculine, some were upright, some were gentle, some were charming, and some were loyal. It was simply a feast of handsome men. Just looking at them was intoxicating. Moreover, each of them was very powerful. The battle between the Winged Tiger tribe and the Black Snake tribe had attracted the attention of other tribes. They heard that they were fighting for the goddess, so they wanted to see what she looked like. As soon as they saw her, they were all fascinated by her white and lustrous skin and beautiful appearance. They also saw the delicious food she made. They all stayed in the Winged Tiger tribe and refused to leave. The other females were no longer pleasing to the eye. Especially when they heard those ambiguous sounds at night, it made every male beastman's blood boil. The first one who couldn't take it anymore was the overbearing dragon. He transformed into his dragon form and took Qian Jia away, flying to a faraway place. Then, in broad daylight, in a world of ice and snow, there was a beast bed on top of him. Then, there was negative distance between their bodies. This made the other beast men look for her. They almost turned the entire tribe upside down. Even Ning Shu's cave was visited by these male beast men. They wanted to see if Ning Shu had hidden the goddess. In the end, the dragon tribe beast men were satisfied and brought Chica back to the tribe. Ning Shu looked at the blushing Chica and wondered why he didn't freeze her to death. The weather was too cold. It was so cold that even Ning Shu, who practiced peerless martial arts, couldn't stand it. But she could still do it in the snow. Perhaps the dragon tribe beastmen took the lead. Later, some beastmen wanted to communicate with Chica. They directly abducted Chica and had sex in the world of ice and snow. Ning Shu felt cold for Chica. Why didn't they just do it in the cave? Why did they have to run out? What made Ning Shu more depressed was that Chica wasn't frozen at all. Every time she came back, white smoke came out of her head. She was very hot and comfortable. Sure enough, exercise was the best way to generate heat. As long as Chica wasn't in the tribe, Roy's face didn't look good. His whole person became gloomy. Ning Shu saw Roy more than once waiting for Chica and the other male beastmen to come back. TSK, this feeling was really sad. Ning Shu felt that after experiencing the world of flesh text, there was nothing that could destroy his worldview. But now, Ning Shu's worldview was shattered again. NP, bestial sex, it really made his worldview explode. Chapter 348. Qian Jia lived a happy life every day, but Ning Shu felt very anxious. His heart was palpitating, and his hair was standing on end. Sometimes, when he went out of the cave, he could see snakes that were supposed to be hibernating were actually crawling in the snow. Rats were in groups, and the ones behind were biting the tails of the ones in front, running away in a hurry. In the river that was already covered in thick ice, he could hear the water bubbling under the ice. Ning Shu knew that an earthquake was coming. Ning Shu didn't sleep every night, and meditated until dawn. After swallowing several spirit marrow crystals, Ning Shu's strength had increased by a lot. Previously, it was just a small group of animals escaping, but now, the sky was filled with flocks of birds crying out mournfully. However, with so many birds, the people in the tribe caught a lot of them and ate a full meal. That feeling of danger was getting stronger, and Ning Shu's heart became even more irritable. At this time, the news of Qian Jia's pregnancy came, and it made Ning Shu's mouth twitch. He didn't know which tribe the child was born from. In fact, Ning Shu couldn't figure it out. Qian Jia, who came from the modern era, should be worshipping a pair for life, but how could she accept this kind of NP thing? Would she be able to love so many males? Perhaps Qian Jia loved the feeling of being surrounded by beautiful men. Most of Qian Jia's children didn't have the ability to transform, and Qian Jia's genes accelerated the process of transformation. In fact, there were also male beast men who didn't succeed in their transformation. These failed female beast men were trash and defective products, and if they didn't awaken the power of transformation at the age of 5, the little male beastman's physique wouldn't be enough to support him to survive. Usually, they would die young, and this was a process of elimination. Qian Jia was actually very happy that her child was a normal person, and her child didn't die young like other male beast men who didn't awaken. The beast men survived in this dangerous world, and what they relied on to survive was this powerful transformation ability. Not only was Ning Shu guessing which male beastman the child in Qian Jia's belly was, but the entire tribe was also wondering who the child was. Knowing that their beloved was pregnant, these male beastmen finally stopped pulling Qian Jia to have sex every day. This made Qian Jia feel relieved. Qian Jia was very happy that she was pregnant. She wanted to treat everyone to a meal, so she invited a few female beastmen from a few tribes to help her cook. Occasionally, she would cook one or two of her signature dishes. It was winter now, and food was scarce. Rui meant to wait until winter was over to treat them, but in front of so many rivals, he couldn't say that. He didn't want Qian Jia's other partners to look down on him, so he could only grit his teeth and endure. Moreover, the amount of food these female beastmen needed to survive in the Winged Tiger clan was enormous. Not only did he have to share his partner with someone else, but he also had to support his love rival. But he loved Qian Jia. For Qian Jia, he could endure anything. Guy took out half of the food he had in his cave. He was afraid that Qian Jia and Rui would not have enough food, which would cause them to lose face. Even if he was greedy for grandiose achievements, he shouldn't be doing it at a time when resources were scarce. Was he trying to show off or something? And this time, Qian Jia even invited Ning Shu to a meal, which made Ning Shu feel that he was showing off. Ning Shu didn't attend any banquet. He was busy and had to carry some important things with him. For example, he ground herbs into powder and sharpened wooden sticks on stones. When he had nothing to do, he sharpened bundles of wooden sticks, just to deal with the beasts that panicked because of the earthquake. When he was treating, he found out about the accident. Qian Jia fell in the snow and was bleeding on the spot. Even the shamans couldn't do anything about it. The shamans hurried over and asked Ning Shu to take a look. Ning Shu was speechless. No, there was a risk in acting tough. Wasn't Qian Jia holding a banquet just to show off that she was pregnant? At the same time, she wanted to gain the love of her partners. When Ning Shu went over, he saw Qian Jia's partners surrounding her and letting her sleep on the snow. They were so anxious that their eyes were red. Qian Jia was lying on the snow. The blood that flowed out dyed the snow red and steamed. Qian Jia clutched her stomach and moaned. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and said, "Hurry up and carry her into the cave." Oh, oh. The male beastmen reacted and went to carry Qian Jia. Qian Jia was hugged by several beastmen. They didn't let go and secretly competed with each other. This made Qian Jia suffer. Her stomach felt like there was a knife stirring. Her body was cold and hot. Ah, it hurts. Qian Jia's voice was sharp and painful. The beastmen were frightened when they saw Qian Jia's dying appearance. They let go of her and let Rui carry her in. Ning Shu followed into the cave and asked the shamans, "How is the goddess?" The shamans shook their heads. It seems that the baby in her stomach is gone. Ning Shu saw Qian Jia's appearance and knew that she couldn't keep the baby. After being frozen in the snow for a while, the genes of beastmen and Qian Jia were actually different. It was easy for her to have a miscarriage. For example, the genes of pigs and dogs wouldn't mix. They couldn't get pregnant. In essence, Qian Jia and beastmen were actually two different species. What Ning Shu didn't expect was that Qian Jia, who was so lucky, would have a miscarriage. Go and see if you can use herbs to save the baby in the goddess' stomach, Ning Shu said. Ning Shu looked at Qian Jia, who was in so much pain that she was sweating. No. Hearing Ning Shu say no, Qian Jia's partners looked at Ning Shu with warning and disgust. Qian Jia's moans became softer and softer. Finally, her head tilted and she fainted. Ning Shu said, "Boil some hot water for her to wash." Feeling that there was nothing else for him to do, Ning Shu turned around and left. However, Ning Shu felt that Qian Jia's miscarriage was a bit strange. In the plot, the Qian family had many children, both boys and girls. However, there was no mention of a miscarriage. Ning Shu looked at the dark and gloomy sky. His heart felt like it was being weighed down by a piece of lead. He knew that there would be a disaster, but the feeling of waiting for it to happen was really fucked up. He felt like he was waiting for death. It was better not to know. Fuck. Ji walked into the cave with a head full of snow. Ning Shu said, "Fuck, do you know how the goddess lost her baby?" Someone pushed her. Ning Shu guessed. "How did you know?" "Then guess who did it." Ji's face was full of gossip. Ning Shu guessed again. "A female beast man." "Fuck, you are indeed a female who has communicated with God. You can even guess this correctly." Ji looked at Ning Shu with admiration. Ning Shu was speechless. "I have seen a lot of things." "Then do you know who did it?" Ning Shu asked Ji. Ning Shu shook her head. She wasn't a god who could predict. It was Yi. Yi pushed Jia. Ji slapped her thigh and said, "At that time, some beastmen saw that it was Yi who did it. This matter has already been reported to the leader." Chapter 349. Ning Shu didn't know which female Yi was, but she must hate Qian Jia to do such a thing. She actually pushed Qian Jia down and caused her to miscarry. How much did she hate Qian Jia? Even if Ning Shu and Qian Jia were not on good terms, Ning Shu had never thought of doing anything to the child in Qian Jia's belly. The baby should not be harmed, but killing an innocent child was something Ning Shu could not do. Why? Don't all the females in the tribe like the goddess? Ning Shu said in surprise. Ji sighed and said, "Ye's partner doesn't treat her well." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He had a guess. If it was true, then it was really a bad account. Ye's partner always said that if he didn't become Ye's partner, he might become the goddess partner. So Ye's partner sometimes beat Yi. He also said that the goddess is good in all kinds of ways. She looks good and knows how to cook. Anyway, he just hates Yi. Ji sighed. Ning Shu sneered. Sure enough, it was the charm that caused the trouble. But men were really disgusting. They ate the food on the chopsticks, looked at the food in the bowl, and thought about the food in the pot. Qian Jia was asking for trouble. She took in so many male orcs and let the male orcs in the tribe squeeze into her harem. If Qian Jia only had Rui as her partner, would the other male orcs have such expectations? It was a self-inflicted disaster. Now the chief said that he wants to drive Yi out of the tribe. Being driven out of the tribe in such cold weather is also a death sentence. Ning Shu said, Yi is so pitiful. After all, she did something wrong. She was too impulsive. Ning Shu said lightly. You have to consider the consequences before doing anything. Even if you want to do something, you have to do it perfectly. The most disgusting thing was Ye's partner. Look at Qian Jia. It was as if she wanted to turn a primitive society into a sex den. Things went too far. Qian Jia's charm was simply terrifying. Her AX value was high. When Qian Jia woke up, she knew that her child was gone, and it was killed by a female orc. At that time, she clamored to kill Yi to avenge her child. Qian Jia dragged her pregnant body and held a Swiss army knife in her hand. She was about to rush over and kill Yi. Yi knelt on the ritual square. Seeing Qian Jia's face filled with hatred and the knife in her hand, his face turned pale and his body trembled. Qian Jia's partners didn't stop her. It was just a female beastman. It was good to let their goddess vent her anger. As he did not want to offend the goddess, the leader of the Winged Tiger clan did not say anything. No one in the entire Winged Tiger clan spoke up for Yi. As the snowflakes swirled around, Chica felt as if her heart was being torn apart by a wild beast. Her first child was gone, and a lowly primitive female beast man had actually done such a thing to her. When Ning Shu arrived, he saw Qian Jia stabbing the female beast man called Yi with a knife. Ning Shu bent down, grabbed a handful of snow, and threw it at Qian Jia's wrist. The knife in Qian Jia's hand was hit by the force of the snowball, and it stuck in the snow. Everyone looked at Ning Shu and Ji, who were walking towards them. The moment Guy saw Ning Shu, he immediately stood in front of Qian Jia. Obviously, he was afraid that Ning Shu would hurt Qian Jia. Ning Shu sneered and said, "Oh, look at you. Her real partner hasn't moved yet. You're just ridiculous. Don't forget, the goddess swore that she would never have anything with you in this life." Guy's face turned ugly, but he did not say anything. Qian Jia's partners all looked at Ning Shu, and there was a vicious light in their eyes. Ning Shu walked over and pulled up Yi, who was kneeling in the snow. Yi looked at Ning Shu blankly. His legs were numb from kneeling, and he could not stand up. Ning Shu pulled Yi up and stuffed him into Ji's arms. He picked up the Swiss army knife on the ground and looked around at the orcs. "Fuck, what are you doing? Do you want to save her?" Qian Jia looked at Ning Shu with disgust. Ning Shu played with the Swiss army knife and blew on the blade. The blade made a slight sound, and it felt very sharp. He said coldly, "So many people bullying a powerless female orc. This is ridiculous. She made me lose my child. Why can't I take revenge?" Ning Shu roared, his body trembling. Rui came over and hugged Qian Jia's trembling body. Ning Shu's expression was very cold. He looked around the entire ritual square and looked at the powerful male orcs. He sneered. "You only saw Yi hurt you, but you didn't see the pain Yi suffered because of you, and the torture she suffered from her partner. Hey, which one is your partner?" Ning Shu asked Yi. Yi looked at Ning Shu blankly, and then pointed at a tall male orc. This female orc was very handsome. His expression was a bit ugly. Ning Shu sneered. The fickleness of men was buried deep in their bones. His partner was about to be killed by Qian Jia, but he did not say a word. He was probably still glad that he could get rid of this burden. Ning Shu threw the Swiss army knife in his hand at the male orc. He was very fast. When the orc wanted to transform to avoid the knife, the flying knife stabbed deeply into his shoulder. His whole body was pushed a distance away by the force of the knife. Blood spurted out and sprinkled on the white snow, steaming. Everyone looked at Ning Shu blankly. Ning Shu clapped his hands and said calmly, "Since it's a trial, those who should be punished will be punished." Ning Shu turned to look at Qian Jia, who was trembling with anger, and said, "Because this male orc wants to be your partner, but he already has a partner, so his partner is a burden. Partners who should be supporting each other have become like this. What right do you have to take revenge so confidently? What right do you have?" Qian Jia's body trembled even more. "Did I make the male orcs fall in love with me? They fell in love with me because of me. Their feelings were not strong enough. Should they blame me when something happens? Should I pay with my life with my child?" Ning Shu laughed, and his expression became even more indifferent. "Because of your greed, you have so many partners, making these." Ning Shu pointed at the male orcs around them. "Making these male orcs want to be your partner. They all want to sleep with the goddess." Qian Jia had no principles, which was why such a thing had happened. Qian Jia had broken her goddess halo and made every male beast man want to do her. "Fuck, what if I have to kill her today to avenge my child? If you stop me, I will kill you." Qian Jia's expression was gloomy. "Do you know that I hate you very much? Very much. Is that so?" Ning Shu smiled calmly. "Actually, I hate you too. Although I don't know if you are a goddess, your arrival has caused the whole tribe to fall into chaos." Chapter 350. Alright, stop messing around. The chief looked at the two people arguing. Ning Shu said, "This female beast man killed the goddess's child. The goddess's child is the son of God. She should be punished by the goddess." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Fine, then we'll kill Ye's partner as well." "How can that be? Male beast men need to hunt." The chief immediately retorted. "Then ye should die. This is all Ye's fault." Ning Shu raised his ugly eyebrows and asked. The chief did not say a word. Ning Shu sneered. "Because they were weak, they deserved to be bullied. Because they were weak, they deserved to die. Such an unprincipled tribe should be exterminated. Chief, if you lick the goddess's feet like this, let's see how much the goddess will give you." Ning Shu sneered coldly. For the sake of a goddess, a tribe had abandoned its people. Such a tribe should be exterminated. "Don't think that just because God gave you power, you can be so insolent," the chief said coldly. Ning Shu said proudly, "God gave me power to protect myself. You go and kill them. Kill the two of them." Qian Jia pointed at Ning Shu's partners and shouted. Qian Jia's partners immediately surrounded Ning Shu. They all transformed and sharpened their claws as they pounced on Ning Shu. Ning Shu stretched out his fist and punched the beast men. Suddenly, he felt a violent tremor. The tremor was so strong that he could not stand firm. Everyone was dumbfounded. Obviously, they didn't know what was going on. Ning Shu saw the sacrificial pillar falling towards her and hurriedly dodged it. She grabbed the branch and ran to an open space. "Earthquake, it's an earthquake!" Qian Jia exclaimed. Instantly, the world turned dark. The tremor was so terrifying that Ning Shu could not stand firm. The whole world seemed to be collapsing. The ground under her feet was falling apart. Ning Shu's heart sank. She did not expect the earthquake to be so powerful. She was worried that the cave would collapse. The tremors continued, and there were screams, cries, and cries for help. Ning Shu suppressed the fear in his heart. The might of heaven and earth was so terrifying that all life forms in front of it were so fragile that they couldn't even withstand a single blow. After an unknown period of time, the tremors subsided. The world suddenly became incomparably bright again. There were actually 3 suns in the sky. The blazing light brought a trace of warmth to the cold winter. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Qian Jia was protected by her companions and was fine. Some people were killed by the pillars of the ancestral square. Then, the roars of the animals filled the entire forest, and the panicked animals rushed towards the tribe. From the size of dinosaurs to the size of snakes, rats, insects, and ants, all the hibernating beasts were disturbed. They were frightened by the earthquake and needed to fill their hungry stomachs at the same time. Quick, pack your things and leave. The clan leader's voice was sharp as he shouted. Fuck, I'm scared. Ji held on to Ning Shu tightly, and Yi held on to Ji tightly. Just like in the plot, these male orcs were the first to collect the seeds. They escorted Qian Jia away and told the female orcs that they would come back to pick them up immediately. Some females were lucky enough to be taken away together. However, many little orcs and female orcs were left behind. Bastards! Ning Shu looked at the orcs flying away and cursed in his heart. They could go back and take the seeds, but they had to send Qian Jia to a safe place first. This showed that in the hearts of these male orcs, the seeds and Qian Jia were the most important. Ji, don't be afraid. Gather everyone. Ning Shu said to Ji, and one by one, they fought against the beasts that rushed into the tribe. Ji's body was trembling. The female orcs were all gathered in the ancestral square. It was difficult for 2 fists to fight against 4 hands. Ning Shu took out the poison and sprinkled it on the beasts. When they returned to the cave that they usually lived in had collapsed. Ning Shu picked up the sharpened wooden stick. On the way back to the ancestral square, he saw that many female orcs had been torn apart by the beasts. There were also the corpses of little orcs. Ning Shu saved a male orc who had transformed into a little tiger. The little tiger was avoiding the pursuit of a group of wolves. Ning Shu picked up the orc. He sprinkled 2 bags of poison on the drooling waves. When they arrived at the square, Ji and a group of female orcs were huddled together. Many of the females were holding little orcs in their hands. There were many animals gathered around the square, but the whole ancestral square seemed to be covered by a layer of transparent enchantment that blocked these animals and kept the orcs in the square safe. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. At least these people were fine. Although he didn't know what was going on with this enchantment. These beasts couldn't tear the people inside the enchantment apart. When they saw Ning Shu, they swarmed over to Ning Shu. Ning Shu threw the sharp wooden stick in his hand at these beasts. The stick directly pierced through the bodies of the beasts. Fuck, come in quickly. The shaman's voice was very tired and much older. Ning Shu entered the enchantment and said with some surprise, "Old woman, they didn't take you away." The old woman was a noble shaman. Sure enough, when disaster struck, everyone flew away. This is the power given to me by God. I will die soon. You have to take care of these people. The shaman coughed and said. Every shaman will get a little divine power from God. Ning Shu, was she doing this by accident? If she said that her power was given to her by God, then she wasn't the next successor. In a moment, the enchantment dimmed, like a bubble in the sun. Ning Shu hurriedly distributed the sharpened wooden sticks to everyone and said calmly, "Don't be afraid. I'm here. Ji, take everyone to the big cave later. I'll protect you from behind," Ning Shu said to Ji. Ji's lips were trembling. She just nodded, holding the wooden stick tightly in her hand, tears in her eyes. The other female orcs were in a worse situation than Ji. They were used to the protection of male orcs. Suddenly encountering such a situation, the female orcs didn't know what to do at all. The earth was still shaking. The intensity of the aftershocks made people unable to stand steadily. Ning Shu finally realized how difficult this task was. Fear was the most terrible thing, and there was also the unknown fate. With a bang, something like the enchantment broke. The shaman stuffed the god stone in her hand into Ning Shu's hand. She spat out blood and said, "Continue the tribe." Ning Shu held the god stone, which was a little hot because of the shaman's hand. He saw the shaman fall to the ground and her body turn into ashes. Ning Shu bit his lip. His throat was a little choked. Seeing the stone of 1,000 worlds on the sacrificial altar, he stuffed it into his pocket. Then he led a group of female orcs and little orcs toward the cave. Ji led the way, stumbling. Ning Shu was behind the team, holding a wooden stick stained with blood. His face and skin were stained with blood. His clear eyes stared at the beasts that were chasing them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.